You guys okay here?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, here we go. Liz, you tell me if you're ready.
Yes.
Lauren, you're okay?
Of course, ready to go?
Okay.
All right. Are you calling to order or anything first?
What's that? I'm good. Okay. The mayor will be here in a couple minutes, but we don't want to short you any time, so you have a chance to go over everything. So the following is the agenda for a special open meeting for the mayor and council of the Borough of Pompton Lakes, Passaic County, to be held in the municipal building, 25 Lenox Avenue, on Wednesday, June 27th, 2018, beginning at 7 p.m. Could you call to order, please?
Call to order. And then the statement of compliance.
Okay. In conformance with the Open Public Meetings Law, Public Law 1975, Chapter 231, adequate notice of the meeting, setting forth the time, date, place, and purpose of this special meeting through notice posted on the bulletin board in the municipal building, mailed to all who had requested and paid for same, and mailed to the suburban trans. Roll call, please.
Mayor Sarah will be here momentarily. Council President Riker.
Here.
Councilman Baranco.
Here.
Councilman Bay.
Here.
Councilman Deline.
Here.
Councilman Giaconetti.
Here.
Councilman Bennett.
Here.
Yeah, I don't know if the attorney and administrator will be there.
They will be here for the next session. Motion to open the meeting for public comments, please.
So moved. Second?
Okay. Second. Okay, Frank, you're the second?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, at this point, what I'd like to do is I'm going to turn the meeting over, Ms. Bennett, are you going to start it?
Yes.
Okay. The floor is yours.
All righty. Good evening.
First we have
Then
public
the
comment.
public wants to make a comment.
Okay.
First we have motion for the public comment.
Then no one, okay, now we close it.
Okay, but you need some motions. You need a motion and a second.
So moved.
We got Chris,
Second.
second, Councilman Bennett.
Okay, now we have the presentation.
Now we have the presentation.
All right. Okay. Good evening. Good evening. My name is Lauren Bennett. I'm the chair of the Flood Advisory Board. I'm going to be presenting tonight on our 2018 River Hazard Assessment and the findings from our field work and our priorities and action plan for the next round of river work. So, okay, 2018 River Hazard Assessment. If you're not familiar with this project, we started in 2010.
Excuse me, can I stop you? Are you picking up on the microphone?
Okay, do I need to be closer to this?
No, it's picking
It's
up.
picking up? Okay, good. All right, so we started in 2010 doing an assessment of the entire river system every 2 years. With changing CRS requirements, we will now be, doing an assessment every year. This year we changed things up a little bit, so I'm going to go through our methodology, go through how we went about the field work, and then get into what our findings were. This year we did a drone survey of all 3 rivers, the 3 rivers being the Ramapo, the Pequannock, and the Wanacue. Those are the 3 rivers that are within Pompton Lakes, along with a portion of the Pompton River, which begins at the southernmost point of the South End neighborhood. The survey data was reviewed by Flood Advisory Board members to identify hazards and areas of concern. These were then mapped using GIS software. And that's how we did it in 2010 also. And a priority map was then created from the hazard map and a data table listing all of the hazards as inspection identifications in compliance with the CRS requirements. And the CRS program is the program which gives Pompton Lakes residents discounts on flood insurance. It's a program that assesses the community's readiness for various types of disaster situations. So the river work we do contributes to our standing in the CRS program. And this year we were able to format our data to meet CRS requirements right away, instead of having to do extra work and possibly miss points later. So, first thing, our field work. Now, in years past, we have actually walked all of the rivers. We divide into pairs or trios and walk each portion of the river. It's about 40 man-hours for the board to walk all of the rivers and mark areas of concern on paper maps and take photos of them. This year, we said, well, one of the Flood Advisory Board members said, can't we use a drone for this? We have some areas of the river that are really hard to get to. dangerous to get to, adjacent to private property, behind the MUA. We can't get to these well. Maybe we should look into doing this with a drone. Now, our OEM coordinator, Al Evangelista, had offered the services of Special Officer Tom Karitzis, who works with OEM and does have a drone and does some drone flying. I said, okay, this is great, but we have to figure out how to do it. So that is where we ended up going to a local surveyor, who's Greg Bloor from Dresner Robin, who's with us this evening. I work with Greg, and he said, well, let's figure out how to do this. Do we shoot a video? Do we shoot individual pictures? How do we get the data? We have the technology, we have access to the technology. Let's figure out the best way to do this. So Greg developed a methodology for us, and what it ended up being was flying at 10 miles an hour at 215 feet in the air with a 15 millimeter 20 megapixel camera. That gave us a 60-foot wide photo at the ground level, so we could get the river channel and both banks in each photo. Once we talked through a methodology and determined how we were going to do the flight path, Mr. Bloor went out and did a test run on a section of the river and came back and said, we'll fly them all for you. So this was a very nice donation of professional services, and I do want to thank Mr. Bloor for his time and his expertise on this, because we were able to get the entire river system photo mapped. So we now have a baseline of what is out there completely. And I'm going to flip over to Google Earth here for a second, if I can. I'm not always the best with, here, let me exit slideshow for a second. And we're going to switch over to Google Earth so that you can see what we got. What did I press? Why did we just lose it? Hold on a sec. We're just trying. There we go. Okay, now we're back up. All right, so what we ended up getting from Mr. Bloor when the field work was completed was a file that we could bring into Google Earth, and these look like red lines. They're actually not red lines. I'm going to zoom in here, and you will see that they're not lines. They're a series of little dots. In each one of these dots is a point where a photograph was taken. The drone flew the path along these dots and took a picture every 2 seconds. We ended up getting over 1,000 photos of the river system, and when we drop them in to Google Earth, we can click on and we can see exactly this is the river at this point. This is along the Wanacue, just south of Danbury Turnpike, and we can click on one photo down and work our way through, essentially walking the entire river system virtually. All of these photographs are matched up with a latitude and longitude. So when this information is turned over to Borough Engineer to provide a work plan for future river work, we are able to know exactly where the photo was taken, which lends a much, much higher degree of accuracy to what we had been doing previously. And that was one of the very big, advantages of,
How'd that picture go there?
Just go back to it. That was one of the very big advantages of doing this way, was we have much more accuracy and we're able to really pinpoint where information was taken. It also allowed us to get to parts of the river that we previously could not get to. Behind the MUA, and it's a little, I don't have laser points that will work on these on the screen, but behind the MUA on the Ramapo River is always an area that we can't really see. And that's a critical facility, and we want to know, do we have blockages there? So this allowed us to see a great deal more. So that is what we got and how we got it there. So now, what did we end up with? Our river hazard map. If you've seen our presentations in years past, this should look somewhat familiar. We have lots of little white ovals. Each oval denotes a obstruction, area of concern. Because this assessment was done in the spring, during a very wet spring, The rivers were very high. We did not see as many shoals. We did not see as many areas of erosion. I have no doubt that there are shoals and areas of erosion, but the river was a little bit higher, so we were not able to see all of them. So now we are going to run through some of the areas of concern on individual rivers. So before I flip to that, I just want to mention, I had said something about our data table earlier. Each one of these little white ovals is listed as a line in that data table, listing the river condition, the reach of the river, which photo it correlates to, what the type of concern was, whether it is an obstruction, a shoal, or an area of erosion, and the time, date, and who performs the inspection, and that is for CRS credit. So let's go to, we're going to do the rivers in alphabetical order first here, so let's go to the Pequannock. These are some of the photos that were taken. This PQ11 is near Hamburg Turnpike, and you can see, now you're looking at this, and I can't get the cursor to show up on the screen, unfortunately, but if you see the large white tree, yeah, it's not wanting to show up on, oh, there it is. Excellent, thank you, Steve. This is why I need tech support. This tree here, you can see this is not actually in the river. This is still standing. You can see where the trunk is coming down. Now this one here, you can see the water moving around it. We know that this tree is down, and this tree is across almost the entire river. So this is an area that we consider to be in poor condition because the river channel stands to be completely obstructed by this tree. Here we have another large tree down. This is PQ25. So the numbers went north to south. This is coming down in the area of the trails in the South End neighborhood. And if you're familiar with that area and you've been down there this spring, you certainly noticed there was a lot of standing water for a really long time. We do believe the number of trees down on the Pequannock River had quite a bit to do with that. And we just picked a couple of representative photographs from each river, so we're not going to go through all of them by any means because there's quite a few. In the Ramapo River, here again we have a tree that is down, that is thoroughly, you can see the crown of the tree is underwater here. And that one is Ramapo 9, so that's not too far from Stiles Park. In this section, this is the side channel behind the MUA. Now, this is in an area of a critical facility, and our MUA is our sewage treatment plant, our water treatment plant. We want to have the river channel behind it clear of obstructions, and you can see some of these trees, you can see the shadows from, so you know that they're still standing. Some of them you can see are into the water with the water partially covering them. Reading the aerial photos is something that takes a little practice. We were very fortunate that Steve Foreman, Pompton Lakes Flood Advisory Board's vice chair, has experience with this and was able to really help us read the photos, understand what we were looking at, and identify the hazards. And now we get to the Wanacue. Now, this is in the same general vicinity that I clicked on when we were in the Google Earth map. We have quite a bit along the bank here. And on this one, just to kind of give an idea of the accuracy of the photo and the detail of the photo, this is a person in a kayak.
Wow.
And this is a tree submerged in the center of the channel. Now, the river was very high at this point. I have no doubt that much more of this tree would be visible if you were to go to the same spot now. And if you wanted to go out and look at this again, if we were to go into this photo, we can get the location, you can get a latitude and longitude and know exactly where you're going to and looking at. That's one of the advantages of using the drone photos as opposed to photos taken on the ground. So once we have all of our little lovely dots here, then we went into prioritizing. We started, I guess, about 5 years ago, providing a priority map to go with the hazard assessment map. This is primarily a tool to help guide the riverwork projects because sometimes we have more items of concern and more down trees and more obstructions than we can reasonably expect the contractor to get to within one work season. So what we did this time, our yellow areas are areas of high concern. Our pink areas are moderate, our blue areas are lesser concern. Now, you might look at this and say, well, why do we have so many dots here. We have so many areas of concern here, but it's a low priority area. And the same thing up here. Some of our qualifications for what was a high priority, what was a low priority, dealt with how much of the river channel was blocked by the obstruction. Anything that was considered to be of poor condition on our data table got to be a high priority. That's what a lot of these little dots are here, where the tree is blocking the majority of the channel. And also the proximity of different uses adjacent to the river. So when you come up the Wanacue River here, and we have the West Lenox neighborhood, which is a lower lying neighborhood than the opposite side of the bank, well, this is going to be a higher priority than this area here, where the riverbank is higher. And even if you have the river back up more, these houses are safer just due to their elevation than this neighborhood adjacent here. Now, adjacent to our MUA, we consider these blockages to be a high priority because they are adjacent to a facility that should be protected. And we consider the grouping of blockages on the Pequannock River here to be a high priority, as this is an area where we have had debris dams in the past. And we know from past experience that clearing these debris dams makes a difference throughout the river system on both the Pequannock, actually on all three rivers. It has made a difference to clear the debris dams here. So we consider this area a little more critical right at the confluence of the Pompton. The rest of the southern Pequannock, while we certainly do want to see it on a work plan soon, we have all of this preserved land that can take a little more water before it starts to threaten houses. That's a little bit of the rationale as to how we ended up with what areas meeting what qualifications. So priorities and action plan. On the Pequannock River, our high priority areas were approaching the confluence of Pompton, which I just talked about, and then immediately north and south of Hamburg Turnpike, where we had several clusters of obstructions in close proximity to each other. We do have continued erosion at the northern boundary of Pompton Lakes. This is something we've addressed year after year. I'm sure Mayor and Council have heard it from us several times before. We understand the inherent challenges in getting any work done there due to the C1 designation of that waterway. So the Ramapo River, our high priority area, is behind the MUA. And what we feel to be a significant priority on the Ramapo is getting access agreements with Wayne Township, because some of the larger downed trees are on the Wayne side. We have not really seen much action in tree removal from Wayne Township along the Ramapo, and we would ask the borough to pursue access agreements to allow trees that threaten our residents with increased flooding but are more on the Wayne side of the river to still be addressed. The bank is very high on the Wayne side here. There isn't the same motivation. And we also want to see continued bank stabilization, as was begun with the Mars Canal Greenway project. We need to see a better habitat restoration for bank stabilization along the Ramapo. And then on the Wanacue, our high priority areas are centered around Hamburg Turnpike, south of Hamburg, heading down towards Hirschfield Park. We know that the neighborhood immediately behind Hirschfield Park is very vulnerable to flooding from the Wanacue. And then immediately north through the bend, this bend here north of Hamburg Turnpike is always a collection point for various obstructions. So that brings us to the end of our presentation. We will be providing our maps, our hazard map, our priority map, the written action plan, and our data table to Mayor and Council as well as Borough Administrator. And we can provide any of the additional photos or GIS data as well. Does anyone have any questions?
First of all, I want to thank you guys for putting that FEMA probably doesn't do as good a picture as you guys are doing right there. Let me just tell you that right now. The fact that you're taking pictures, so many pictures at a time. I just had a meeting with the grant writer about how we can get some money for other projects, and we brought up the rivers. And they said documentation is the key to getting money from FEMA. So the first question I have for you is, that is a great documentation moving forward. What do we have in the past documentation?
in the past, we began the river work project in 2010, so starting in 2010, we have the hazard map, we have photographs that are tagged to the map. They were not geo-referenced, it was done, the geo-referencing, there's no latitude and longitude marked on the photo. It was done on foot, we stood on the bank and said, well, I see that house on my map, I see that house, so I'm about here, I'm going to put my mark there, I'm going to number my photograph. That's how we had done it in the past. So from 2010, 2012, 2014, and 2016, we have full river assessments.
Are they done in the same place or different place?
They are not done in the same format. In 2010 through 2014, it was done in an AutoCAD drafting program, and we provided, it was not to scale, it was just a drawn map, basically. It was overlaid on an aerial, but nothing was scaled. Starting in 2016, we began using a GIS platform, and that's what we used in 2016 and then this year. So that is a little easier to hand over to any engineers or any other agencies and have them use.
So our grant writer, Sue Scavone, is willing to take on a fight for us against FEMA. She understands that right now they don't have programs specifically for what we're talking about, but maybe it can be jumped into the other programs that they already offer, and it's all done through documentation. So she'll probably be, or Al, or our administrator will probably be reaching out, trying to get this information put together with what you did now and what you did in the past, to see if we can do a comparison. It's a start. We'll see where we can go with it, to see if we can get some more funding. Now, we put money in, as you guys know, every year into it. It goes as far as it can go. The Wayne side is going to be more of a complex issue. I don't see Wayne saying, come aboard, take trees down from our side, but we'll have to talk to them and see how that goes. So, first of all, I just want to thank everybody. I want to open it up to the council if anybody has questions. I'll let them go from there, because we're running out of time. We've got about 5 minutes, so if you got questions, then.
I have a question. Follow up to something the mayor said. The drone technology, which you showed us at the beginning, which was really fascinating, is that something that you would anticipate other communities using at this point, or are we ahead of the curve?
I think we're a little ahead of the curve. Mr. Bloor has been using drones for survey for about a year and a half. It's something that's a little up and coming in surveying, and certainly drones are becoming more popular in general. Greg did work in the field, met with Al Evangelista and with Alexis in the field and reviewed the methodology so that we would be able to go ahead and do this again in the future with less professional support if needed. Because this was a donation of professional services, so it got us started. But the methodology was reviewed with our own OEM and our own OEM drone.
I was hoping that might help Sue Scavone work towards the goal.
Yeah, we don't have what we have here as the past. That's the problem.
So, in terms of, the mayor started by saying in jest, but true as things said in jest, that the level of professionalism of your report was possibly greater than that which you would see from FEMA.
I would say that.
But, so what I was hoping is with the level of data that you've accumulated, that this would in fact be an aid to our grant writer.
I would hope so, and we certainly, the 2016 data and now the 2018 data should be in a format that's very easily translated from one professional to another. So it should be easy to work with, it should be even easier to document. We have documentation in that, so the 2010 assessment was sent to DUP in 2011 to John Moyle at, at Dam Safety and Flood Control. That did go to him in 2011. So this is not, the idea of doing this is something DEQ knows we've been doing. We have not seen other communities picking this up yet. We've talked to Pequannock about it. We've offered support to Pequannock in terms of helping with figuring out methodology, but it didn't really move forward. We would love to see other communities move forward with this, because the more communities downriver that address their blockages, obviously it benefits our residents also.
Any other quick questions?
Just want to thank Lauren, my wife Lauren, and our board. I've seen firsthand how much work goes into this. She's hours and hours that a lot of folks don't see, but the results show by the lack of flooding that we've had over the last, how many years since Irene? So thank you, Greg, President Robin.
Yeah, thank you.
No, the only thing I wanted to throw in was, I know we were talking about, well, we have this data now, which is a great baseline moving forward. You know, what do we have previous years? And I think that the fact that this has been going on since 2010, that there is documentation, maybe not to this level. So we've shown that you know, the volunteers and the borough has spent a lot of time documenting where there are existing issues. And by the same token, I think we can show that we know where there weren't existing issues, and as a result of these storms that occurred, what weren't existing issues are now issues. So I think if we you know, go to bat and try and you know try and get that money for that specific purpose, we still use the older data even if it's not in the same form. I'm saying we have this history of consistent documentation. We know that this was not a problem, you know, previously, and now it's a problem, and we've got the pictures showing it's a problem. And we don't have anything, you know, there's nothing indicating that it was a problem before.
I agree. I thank everybody for their hard work they do, so thank you. I think, did you open up the meeting?
We opened it, closed it, the presentation, the presentation is just completed, and now
Before I sit down, just thank you, Mayor and Council, for the opportunity to present and for the ongoing support for the Riverwork project. You guys have really gotten it. You understand the benefits of what we're doing and have continued to support the board with this. So I do appreciate that. And always thank you to all of our board members, because there's not a single person on the flood board who doesn't work on this, who doesn't put in the time and the effort. So we really do appreciate it.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, can I have a motion to adjourn back into open session?
second.
Council, check in there. Council President Riker, all in favor?
Aye.
Against? Motion to adjourn.
For election signs and garage sale signs, and as to how much in advance they can be up and when they have to be taken down, etc. And I do understand we need to get the word out about our local events, but in my opinion, seeing Pompton Day signs 3 months in advance is a little ridiculous. I feel like it's making the town look a little bit trashy. That's my opinion. Also, the town, both Pompton Day signs, Prevention Coalition signs, they don't belong on the memorial monuments. The Women's Club plants to make it look better, and then there's these signs all stuck throughout. So if we could do something about that, that would be great. I think it's a little disrespectful.
All right, so I addressed that problem already with the rec department yesterday.
Okay?
They'll be pulling all the signs out from, and I agree with you with everything you said. They will not be putting, they should have never been putting signs on the monuments or any of the beds that we planted. They got a little overzealous about putting out their signs and put them there. So they will be removing those signs. I did also say to them, I didn't think we needed to have signs out 3 months in advance. We worked out a compromise because they still would like to get vendors to take part in Pompton Day. That I told them, all right, our municipal building, maybe a couple of our ball fields, some properties that we don't really see much, we'll leave them there. But I don't want them stuck on neighbors' yards. I don't want them stuck in our beds. I don't want them stuck at monuments. So hopefully this weekend they'll be pulling all those signs out.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay.
Thirdly, I'm here representing 112 and 115 Center Street, along with 112 Whitney Ave. And I am confident that I could have filled pages of petitions with resident signatures about the topic of deer. Our population in our neighborhood, since we lost the fence down at the bottom of Hirschfield, is ridiculous. The deer come like you're sitting on your patio 4 to 6 feet away from you, and if you say, "Where's your brother?" they just lay down. They don't even leave. People's pets don't scare them. We've done New Jersey deer control, liquid fence, various other chemical deterrents. We're now pulling ticks off ourselves, which we've never done before, and we're not hanging out at the ball field or the golf course. A lot of us have had deer and car incidents. There's a big dead deer on Hamburg Turnpike today. I know the National Wildlife Research center study says 8-foot fences, but you can't put that in the front of your house. Do you have a suggestion?
Unfortunately, this is a problem not only our town is dealing with, many, many towns in the state of New Jersey. And I've said from the beginning about the deer control. When the state comes up with a program that works for every town, we'll be taking part of that. One town trying to fix a deer problem is not going to fix a deer problem, because the deer are going to come from every other area to back into your town. There's no way to control them at this point. If every town doesn't get on board with some type of program, it just can't be done. The state has to take some responsibility. What the state is basically saying at this point, all animals in nature are part of our environment, and we have to learn to live with them. That being said, there's a lot of deer out there right now. There's no question of that. We as a town right now have no commitment to deer control. If the state was to come forward with something, we would listen to it.
Okay. Are there restrictions to what a resident can or cannot do to control them?
It's against the law to feed any wild animal.
Well, we don't feed them, but...
Right. But anything you do on your own private property that's legal, you're welcome to do. We can't stop you from doing anything.
I mean, like, we just took out 12 8-foot arborvitaes that the arborist came and said they're done.
Right.
So I can't have a fence, and I can't have I'm kind of stuck.
Yeah, it's tough. It's a tough situation. I mean, there's a
So
lot of towns dealing with it.
Is there something like Shade Tree has to protect these little trees that protect
You'd have to
them?
talk to Shade Tree, but I don't think they actually have something, or they would have had it out there already.
Okay.
Besides a hunt, which a lot of people are against, there's not much you can do.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public like to address? Step up.
Randy Hitton, 443 Montclair Avenue. Just wondering if there was any movement on transparency of government with the salaries on the town website?
Like I told you last meeting that you asked this question, we're working on it. It takes some time to get the paperwork in and make everything happen. We don't have one man dedicated to just that job. The salaries are up already, I think. We're working towards getting it all up there.
All right, so I'm just looking for a time frame. That's
We can't give you a time frame. When it happens, it happens.
all right.
Let's set it up, Mayor, it's up right now.
The salary resolutions for the past several years are all up.
There you go.
All
The
right.
salary resolutions are up already.
She is the girl. Very good, thank you. Just a suggestion, the presentation that Ms. Vennon just made was excellent, but you had the public comments before the presentation. Could we do something like public comments after the presentation, so you see the presentation, and if questions come up, then you can ask a legitimate question?
There were public comments.
Right, so we would have to have two of them. It's tough to do in a half-hour meeting because they want to talk, but I agree with what you're saying. I mean, if the public has a concern, they should be able to ask a question about it. We'll have to address that a little bit and see if we extend the time a little bit. It gets tough to get two sessions with the public and the talk in a half hour done. That's always the problem. But it's a suggestion, we'll listen to it.
Start earlier.
Some people can't start earlier, that's the problem.
Also, the comment that was just made about the deer. You said there's a lot of people against the hunt.
In my opinion.
There's a lot of people for the hunt.
I've yet to speak to anyone who has.
You're
Except you.
speaking to them.
Except you, yes.
And I can,
Well,
there are
don't
others
speak for
out
other, don't speak for other people.
No.
At this microphone, you're the only one who said it.
you're very good at that, aren't you? I've been working on this for quite a few years now. I brought in Dr. Emile DeVito last year, and Councilman DeLine was there, Councilman Kent. He spoke of the problems of the deer and the problems we're going to have in the future.
Mm-hmm.
I spoke to all the councilmen. I spoke to you also.
Mm-hmm.
At that presentation, Councilman DeLine was there, and Councilman Kent showed up. No one else came. It was a great presentation. There was a lot of information given. Then I brought in Dr. Amy Rowe this year, and she spoke about ticks and the problems associated with the deer. Unfortunately, none of you showed up. So, for the protection of your residents...
How many residents showed up?
Excuse me?
How many residents showed up?
Excuse me?
How many residents showed up?
There was at least 16 at the tick presentation. It's very difficult, because when you give something here, it doesn't get onto Channel 77 for a while. and not everybody is computer literate, they're not on the computer all the time. So when I made a statement that we were having this presentation, a lot of people did show up, but the communication here with Channel 77 takes a week, 2 weeks, sometimes 3 weeks to get out. Varies. So, but there was a good amount of people at the library for that presentation, and I can have it again if you would like to attend.
Look, the ticks are an issue, there's no question ticks are an issue. But like I said in the beginning, we can't address the problem unless all the towns are addressing the problem.
Yes, but, Mr. Mayor, you have nothing as far as contacting the other towns to even
I
have that
No, that's
discussion.
wrong. You should know your facts before you spit them out. I've spoken to the other mayors of the other towns,
Yes.
and they are not making a move on it either.
Well, we need to have a discussion. The town of Little Falls has a wildlife management committee. Maybe we can start one ourselves.
You're talking about towns directly around us. I've spoken to the mayors directly around us, and they do not want anything to do with it at this point.
What about the suggestion of a wildlife management committee? Are you,
We could bring it to the mayors. I can't speak for them. I don't know.
I mean, for you in this town?
We'd have to talk about it and see if that's something we're interested in.
I'd be willing to chair it.
I'm sure you would.
But we have to work on it. We have to have this discussion.
We can.
I brought in Dr. DeVito last year, Dr. Rowe this year. That's what I've done, and we need to have this discussion.
We all see what's going on with Upper Saddle River. They're having a fight right now with the state about the hunt.
Right.
And, it could go either way. We're not sure which way it's going to go at this point. If the state comes back and tells them they can't have a hunt there, then that's telling the state you can't have a hunt in your town right now. So we'll have to see how that goes.
No, they said they can't have sterilization.
Well, they said already sterilization. They're looking into the hunt.
Right, and it looks like it'll go through.
Well, we don't know that yet, yeah.
Okay, but we need to have the discussion.
We can have the discussion. We can
And
have it.
because the residents that I talk to all over town, I just talked to Mr. Grayberg from Lake Restoration. You know him well. We all know him well. It's unfortunate that he's moving out of town. He's been an asset to this town. But he said in the 22 years that he's been there in Glencourt, the deer are getting worse and worse.
There's no question they're getting worse and worse. But another place to bring it up is in the environmental meeting.
I brought it up there.
Well, that would be the format at this moment until we decide what we want to do.
Well, we need to work on it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public like to address? Please raise your hand.
Lauren Glennon, 4 Sunset Road. I'm speaking on behalf of the Trail Maintenance Subcommittee. I want to make the announcement that at our new kiosk in Hirschfield Park that is located adjacent to the football field near the back baseball field, we now have posted in that kiosk a listing of all of the trail maintenance events. So that includes our family hike series, which runs from March through October every year. We go on 1 hike per month. Try to keep it within an hour radius of Pompton Lakes. Generally try to be within 40 minutes, just to get out and explore some of the state parks, county parks, different trails that we have around. And it also lists all of our upcoming maintenance days. We haven't really had a means of communication outside of social media or emails, if we have people's email addresses. So hopefully this will allow more people to know what the trail group is up to, what's going on, and get a little bit more participation in those events. So that will be there. Right now it has everything through fall of 2018, and then, we will keep on top of updating that regularly. And I do want to also say for the Stormwater Management Committee, we've had a really great response to our rain barrel workshops. We ran another one this past Sunday, and if any residents are still interested in rain barrels, please reach out to the Flood Advisory Board. You can find us on the borough website. You can find us on Facebook. You can come to one of our meetings, get in touch with us, let us know if you're interested in a rain barrel. We've been, yes, this is our page. We've been able to provide barrels. Now we've provided 8 more barrels over the weekend to residents. So, thank you very much.
Before you go, and thank you for that information, maybe we could get on the board, if you have room, some information about ticks, because I agree that, some people should be educated on the ticks. So maybe if we have something you can work out with them, just a quick 10-point thing.
Yeah, Amy Rowe had sent me the PowerPoint, so I wasn't able to make it to her presentation last year, so she sent me her slides from that presentation, so I can cull a few facts and some of what we've come across. I've also found on that topic, the CDC's website actually has a decent analysis of different insect repellents and what to be used in what situations, what's for clothing, what's for skin. I found it very informative when I was looking for something better to use for my own daughters. So it's a good resource. I didn't expect them to have anything about insect repellents, but under their Lyme disease page, they did have some good information.
All right, so maybe you and Mr. Hinton can work on like a one-page thing that we can just put up there and maybe get it on Channel 77 or wherever we need to. Just to
we'll take a
educate,
look at
because
that.
some people don't know the dangers of ticks.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. Anyone else from the public? Please step up.
Jennifer Schnee, 22 Orchard Street. I'll be speaking on behalf of the Pompton Lakes Community Advisory Group, and I wanted to read this letter to Governor Murphy for the record. The subject line reads, Pompton Lakes Community Advisory Group, significant steps, urgent request, Pompton Lakes DuPont Works toxic site. Dear Governor Murphy, I would also like to ask if I go over the 5 minutes, if you could just allow me to
I
finish the
can't,
letter.
there's too many people here. I'll give you some little room, but I can't let you go on forever.
Mayor,
Couple minutes, but I can't go 20 minutes, I can't go.
Dear Governor Murphy, the Pompton Lakes Community Advisory Group would like to thank you for your comments on the Brian Lehrer Show on WNYC on March 14th, 2018. In particular, your comment comparing our situation in Pompton Lakes, New Jersey to that of Love Canal. We are deeply grateful for your sensitivity to the difficulty of our circumstances here regarding the DuPont toxic legacy in our town. Our organization is made up of current and former residents. Since 2011, our focus has been on educating and assisting them with the horrific situation they endure every day. These citizens have lost loved ones to catastrophic illness, become sick themselves, suffered financial hardships and property losses, and endured years of emotional pain caused by this poisonous nightmare. Long ago, they lost trust in the public officials of the EPA, NJDEP, and most especially their local elected officials. We submitted a 13,000+ signature petition calling for Superfund designation to Governor Christie, only to have him make vain promises and ultimately ignore our calls for action. We are hopeful that your administration and the newly appointed officials at NJDEP, under the direction of Commissioner McCabe, will help us to right these wrongs immediately. For our community to be whole again, we believe significant steps must be taken to ensure that the toxic plume neighborhoods are made the #1 priority. Our neighborhoods and our waterways must be cleaned up to residential standards, along with the Pompton Lakes DuPont Works Chemours site. In your radio comments, you stated your concerns for the Superfund program, given the current administration in Washington. While we have been petitioning for Superfund designation for almost a decade, we are deeply concerned regarding the appointment of Peter C. Wright, a lawyer for Dow DuPont Inc., to oversee the Superfund program. As you may know, DuPont and Dow merged in 2017. We believe Mr. Wright's appointment is a conflict of interest. We are greatly concerned for the Superfund program itself. Therefore, we strongly believe that the state of New Jersey must step in to balance the scales. Since Superfund's effectiveness is now being challenged, and since we now have clear evidence of DuPont's evasiveness based on the record newspapers' Toxic Secrets investigative series, we request the following be immediately implemented to protect the health and safety of our residents and our environment. 1. NJDEP must be more involved in all facts of the cleanup of DuPont Chemours Pompton Lake site under New Jersey cleanup laws. 2. We request the NJDEP Acting Commissioner McCabe revoke the 1988 Administrative Consent Order. Reservation rights, I don't know if this is, you want me to read it? We have reservation of rights. The department reserves the right to unilaterally terminate this administrative consent order in the event that the department determines that person has violated the terms of this administrative consent order before the department unilaterally terminates this administrative consent order. The department shall notify person in writing of the obligation or obligations which it has not performed, and this person shall have 30 calendar days after receipt of such notice to perform such obligation. In place of the ACO, NJDEP to issue a Spill Act directive to DuPont, which lays out enforceable technical requirements, deadlines, compensation for NJDEP, oversight costs, and enforcement penalties. NJDEP to collect damages authorized by the NJ Spill Act. NJDEP needs to hire independent contractors to conduct the remaining cleanup and conduct independent testing of all affected areas, including those behind the plume, beyond the plume, and downstream. These contractors must have no conflict of interest with DuPont. NJDEP to reopen the natural resource damage settlement with DuPont negotiated by former DEP Commissioner Brad Campbell. That deal allowed DuPont to donate contaminated land. You can see the record story. DuPont deal gave the state more tainted soil based on the traumatic environmental damage caused to the community. The NRD settlement must explicitly benefit Pompton Lake. 3, stop the hydraulic well surcharge permits. The residents cannot purchase insurance protection from potential heightened exposure to the contamination for structural damage incidents or flooding. DuPont Chemours refuses to offer such protection. If NJDEP moves forward with the hydraulic well surcharge study and grants Chemours the permit, then a buyout plan for the plume residents must be offered prior to any work being done. Lastly, we thank you for the prompt response of Eric Wachter to your conversation with Jefferson Harmon LaSala on WNYC. Mr. Wachter has promised to set up a meeting between our residents, Commissioner McCabe, and yourself. Please confirm the date and time as soon as possible. We look forward to your presence at this crucial meeting. We await your immediate response to the above. Respectfully, Pompton Lakes Community Advisory Group. Thank you.
Thank you for reading that. So just in response, I guess since then, the governor has come out and said, after speaking with his representatives from the Lieutenant Governor's office and the Catherine McCabe from the DEP, that at this time he thinks things are moving forward and it should not be a Superfund site here. So any fight that you would have with that, you would have to take up with the state and the government and FEMA. And I'm not stopping you in any way from doing that. All the requirements that you just listed there, you can push forward in any direction you wish. That's up to you guys to do. The hydraulic surcharge, I know many council people and myself have agreed with you, and that if they can't put a flood plan in place in case something was to happen, that the residents should be compensated for that. So we support you on that. I don't know where that's going. I've reached out myself to the DEP to find out what's going on. It's been a very long time. There hasn't been any comments on it. I've said from day one, anybody who's been in this room who knows me, who's been involved, I've said from day one, DEP has to have a better presence here in town with our residents. The EPA has stepped up to the plate and comes every Thursday, and anybody's welcome to speak to them if they want. The DEP, for whatever reason, has decided not to do that. I continually ask for them to do that. I think our residents, our town deserves to have someone represent them from the state level also. So some of those things we're working on. The other things, you're going to have to take on yourself. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else from the public like to address? Please step up. Yep.
It's been a while. Lisa Riggiola, 283 Ryerson Road, Lincoln Park. I want to start off by, I didn't get a chance to do this, but the first aid squad and the police department, my mom had fallen, and they were amazing.
Good.
And they got her to the hospital, even though she didn't walk out.
We always say we got the best in town.
She broke her hip in 7 places. It wasn't a pretty picture. So I want to thank them publicly on public record for helping my mom. There's another letter that needs to be read, and what Jen is asking for, Mayor, and Council, is our request to be put into a resolution in support of the residents. It's not Superfund, it's another option to get the town cleaned up properly. And unfortunately, you talk about the lake cleanup, and yes, there is a partial lake cleanup, but there's
Well,
lots of
let's
letting...
stop there. That's your opinion as a part.
No, it's not my opinion, it's fact,
Let me just say
Mayor.
this, if we're going to have comments from the audience, I'm going to ask people to leave.
Mayor.
It's the only warning I'm giving.
It's
Only
a
warning.
fact. They're cleaning 39 acres, not
They
200.
are, but the EPA and DEP has said that's what they need to do.
Well, that's not true. They changed their story. Read the
Well, we're not
U.S.
gonna go- we're not
Fish
gonna
and
have this
Wildlife
fight. I can only
Report.
follow what the EPA and DEP suggest.
Well, you know what? Everyone's accountable, from every mayor and every council member that served. They're responsible for their people, too. Let me read this letter. Many residents have sent this to Governor Murphy, and I want you to know that people are upset about this. So they want the following. We, the residents of Pompton Lakes, New Jersey, would like to draw your attention to the following issues and request your immediate attention to these matters. We request that you direct the NJDEP to keep their promise to our residents. The promise to meet with Commissioner McCabe was made on March 14th, 2018, and we are still waiting. She's never been here, right, to meet with anybody, I guess.
I've met with her here, yes.
You've met with her? Okay, but the promise was made to the people to meet with them. We have heard literally nothing from anyone at NJDEP about this, despite the CAG's follow-up letter on April 6th. We were told that no decisions would be made until the Commissioner of Chief of Staff, Eric Wachter, had met with our organizations to hear the residents' concerns. This did not happen. Please keep your promise to us that our voices would be heard. We are greatly concerned about the lack of response regarding the NJDEP hydraulic surcharge study, I should say, hearing of September 26, 2017. At the hearing attended by 150 to 200 people, many residents offered testimony. Not one resident commenting at the meeting, including the mayor and Councilman Giaconetta, spoke in favor of the permit. Yet the NJDEP still has not properly responded. And there's laws that actually they abide to by response, by the way. Please stop the hydraulic well surcharge permit. The residents cannot purchase insurance protection from potential heightened exposure to the contamination for structural damage or flooding. DuPont Chemours refuses to offer such protection. If NJDEP moves forward with the hydraulic well surcharge study and grants Chemours the permit, then a buyout plan for the Flume residents must be offered prior to any work being done. Because of the lack of response to our residents by the EPA under the current administration, and because of the appointment of the Dow DuPont lawyer, Peter C. Wright, to the EPA, we believe NJDEP must be more involved in all the facets of the cleanup of the DuPont Chemours Pompton Lake site, its facets, under New Jersey cleanup laws. We request that NJDEP Commissioner McCabe revoke the 1988 administrative consent order, which was provided to you in the CAG letter of April 6th. Once this is done, NJDEP should issue the Spill Act directive to DuPont, which lays out enforceable technical requirements, deadlines, compensation for NJDEP oversight costs, and enforcement penalties. NJDEP should collect damages authorized by the NJ Spill Act. NJDEP needs to hire an independent contractor, and it goes on with the same requests that were in the CAG letter. And this is being signed by people and sent to the governor and NJDEP Commissioner, Catherine McCabe also, or no? Right. So this is what people want. We know you don't want Superfund. This is an option.
I can tell you this, I will reach out to DEP again this week, to find out where we are with the pilot program. I have done that in the past. They tell me they're working on the comment still. There was a little mix-up, I'm sure everybody's aware, with the comment situation. Had nothing to do with us. They just messed it up.
That doesn't really sound kosher to me.
I can't-
Governor Christie was still the governor at the time.
I'm not gonna
There's
get
never
into-
been a transcript screw-up before, and legally, no one should be
All right, we're
correcting
talking
their...
about what ifs. I can only go by what
Well-
happened, and that's unfortunate, and I laid into him, I'm not gonna lie, I laid into him pretty hard about it. I didn't appreciate it. I didn't look
Well-
good for my town.
I wouldn't correct mine, because legally, that's not the... I don't remember what I said 6 months ago.
Well,
So
that's
I
what they're
didn't-
saying,
I
that the
wouldn't do it.
holdup is. You know our stance here on the board about it, so it is what it is. Hopefully, we'll have a resolution on it, not from here, from the state, about what's going forward about it.
All right, well, just want to keep you up to date. We still have a CAG, by the way. I watched one of the council meetings.
I was trying to make it, but I could not. I had plans that.
No, but I meant, you had mentioned in the council meeting that there should be a new CAG. The CAG is still here.
Well, it's a CAG, but it's not the official CAG of the EPA or the DEP.
Well, we could go there, and that would be
I'm
another
not going there
story.
again either.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else from the public like to address? Please step up, Mr. Sal. Well, you come up first, come on. Yeah, you come up first, go ahead.
Hi,
Hi, how are you?
I'm good, how are you? My name is Anastasia Tamburino, and I live at 18 Orchard Street. And I do agree with the CAG letter that was written. And I'm requesting a response from the council, but I also have a question for the council. I'm currently...
Well, first, let me just give you a little information. The council itself doesn't usually respond. I respond for the council.
Well, mayor and council, whoever can
So,
respond.
I didn't know if you meant everybody you
No,
want to respond.
whoever can respond to my question.
That's fine.
I'm currently a senior at Elizabethtown College, and I'm doing a project on environmental studies. And I was just wondering how much background do you have on this issue? Like,
On
this
what issue?
The issue of DuPont and the pollution and the lake cleanup.
Unfortunately, I have too much background on this information. I've been doing this for now 10 years. I've been on council for 6 and mayor for 4. I was involved in the initial CAGs with a lot of people in this room that was set in place by the state and then by the government. I've been involved with, obviously, Chemours and DuPont and what's going on in town, so I have a lot of knowledge. I also have a science background. I was a research scientist for the state of New York, so I do have a background in science myself.
So this isn't going to turn into an interview, I promise you. I just have like 2 or 3 questions.
You got 5 minutes to ask as many questions as you want.
Oh, sorry. So with your background in this, do you feel that this project is going to move forward?
Which project?
The cleanup and resulting in the houses being cleaned up?
Well, that's not an easy statement to say one thing. They're moving forward right now with the lake. After they're done with the lake, they'll start to address their own property.
Mm-hmm.
That has to be worked out, an agreement with the EPA and the DEP together on how they're going to clean up the properties. That they take it in stages. The first stage is the lake, the next stage is going to be their own property. Are you asking me, is it going to happen? It's very slow, I'm not going to lie, and these people in this room know I've said that from day one. It's been a slow process, but I do believe they will finish it at some point.
Okay. All right, with that, I'm done with that. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Anyone else? What's up?
Good evening. My name is Jefferson Harmon LaSala. Most of you know me. I used to live at 31 Orchard Street. I moved in October, and we had a PLCAG meeting.
I need your real address.
Oh, 31 Orchard Street was the address.
No,
my new address?
Yes.
It's 209 Conley Road in Lincoln Park, New Jersey. On Monday of this past week, the Pompton Lakes Community Advisory Group had a formal meeting in the Civic Center, and several residents attended. And we created a list of 5 things, which is what Lisa was reading, and basically 5 points that the CAG is calling for based on residents' comments to us, based on our research. What the reason for putting that together was because on March 14th of 2018, I was on WNYC radio with Governor Murphy on the Brian Lehrer show, and we had a specific conversation about what's going on in Pompton Lakes and what's going on in Washington, and the fact that the EPA, has a conflict of interest at this point because of this doubted pond law.
Well, I'm going to stop you right there. And that's your opinion, to have the conflict of interest? It might not be everybody's opinion in this room, so you're speaking about your opinion at this moment.
Okay, but I'm also making a public comment, which is my opinion.
It's your opinion, yes. I'm just making, you're saying there's a conflict. That's your opinion, there's a conflict.
If there's a lawyer for the corporation that
We're
is
not gonna
involved
get
in the
into
cleanups, that would be a conflict.
In your opinion, yes.
Okay, fine. Councilman Giaconetta, thank you for attending the meeting with us.
I had plans, or I would have been there.
Councilman Giaconetta, if I may say so, signed that letter to the governor.
That's his opinion.
And sent it
That's his
along,
choice, yeah.
crossing off only the one calling for the revocation of the ACO. And the other 4 bullet points remain intact on that. What I would like to request that the council do, because we are not hearing from the DEP at all, this has been since March 14th. I had a specific call with Eric Wachter, who is the chief of staff of the DEP. We spoke for a full hour. I was promised that we would be able to speak, that the PLCAG, the PLREI, which is the Pompton Lake Residents for Environmental Integrity, of which I'm a board member, and the Citizens for a Clean Pompton Lake, CCPL, that all 3 organizations would be able to sit down with Commissioner McCabe and have a formal meeting with just the residents and former residents and the NJDEP. We were promised that meeting. It still has not happened, and they're making decisions without the information.
Well, that promise was made between you and them, has nothing to do with us. You don't even want us there. So asking us to help you have that meeting doesn't really work, does it?
Well, it's an interesting point, but I mean, just in terms of solidarity with the residents, I think it would be a good thing for the council.
Well, solidarity would be having your council and mayor there with that meeting.
I am not objecting to the possibility of that, but I think the residents should also have the chance to...
Well, look, if you guys have a meeting with them, I support that 100%.
You've spoken with them separately, so I don't see why...
No, I haven't spoken with them separately. She came to do a tour of the DuPont plant with a reporter and myself.
Okay.
That's why she was here.
Okay.
If you guys are looking for this meeting, you really need to reach out to them and make the meeting happen. I mean, that's the only thing I can tell you.
Okay, so then let's eliminate those 2. What about the other 3?
What's the other 3 now?
Lisa, do you have that letter?
Well, the one is the insurance, which we all agree.
One is the insurance for the hydraulic surcharge study.
We've agreed on it already.
But we're asking that you do more than just agree in a meeting in Pompton Lakes. We think that a resolution needs to be passed.
We're not going to pass a resolution on it. We're not going to pass any resolutions we're involving the EPA and DEP. They're the guides on this. We're just backseater drivers in this. We're not the one driving.
Why are you just backseat drivers in this?
Because they're the ones making the policy on this, not us.
Why are you not involved in that process?
Because it's not part of the process that they do. They don't involve us.
It was when Jack Sinsheimer was mayor.
That is not true.
When Jack Sinsheimer was mayor, he
I could have records pulled. I could have the records pulled. It's not true.
I would question that.
Okay.
I would highly question that. Based on every bit of public testimony given by Mayor Sinsheimer, he and his council, and I believe Millie Torciello is here tonight.
Is this the same gentleman selling a book on the back of my residence? Is that the same gentleman you're talking about?
Well, it's an interesting way to put it, because, I'm one of those residents.
Yeah?
I was born to this town. I lived here since the time I was a baby. And I had to move because I couldn't keep up with the property taxes in this town to live on contaminated land.
Yeah. But I'm asking you, as a resident who grew up here...
So to say that to me, when we've been calling for a decade for the council to help us...
We have been helping.
No, you really haven't.
Well, that's your opinion again.
You really haven't.
All right, well, I'm not going to get into an argument back and forth.
All right. So you're saying that you would not pass a resolution on anything?
I would, myself personally, I can't speak for everyone up here, but personally, I would sign, for the insurance. I think that's a needed thing. And I will also assign a factor of when are they going to make a decision. I want a decision on this. I don't want to wait on this. It's been already going out. So I have no problem. And I told you, I already said I will make a call this week to find out again where we are with the DEP on the permit. They tell me the same thing I'm sure they're telling you. We're working on it. We're putting comments together.
It's been 40 years, Mayor.
I understand.
It's been 40 years.
I have a question, Mayor. Does this council, and obviously Councilor, this is also directed to you, this question, does this council have the jurisdiction to say that they can or cannot do something about DuPonts? No, we don't.
No, he's asking for a resolution, which is not...
But again, if you make a resolution by a body that has no jurisdiction...
That's true.
There's no point to it.
What Mayor Sinsheimer told me was that he passed ordinances, that the council passed ordinances.
Could you ask him what those ordinances... Again, I'm going to say this for everybody in the room, and including myself. We're only speaking about yourself at the microphone. We're not speaking about other people who are not here, because I can't take everybody's word about...
I can certainly research that and get you the information.
That would be great.
Okay. But again, according to him, he negotiated with, I think the man's name was Lee Woods from DuPont, and the local banks. He created a buyout plan. That was certainly one of the things that we've been...
No, he maybe put together a buyout plan in his head, but the EPA and DEP didn't accept it.
Then where did it come from?
From him trying to say this should happen.
But there was a buyout.
I've never seen it. Maybe there was. It's way before my time. I don't know.
No, there was a buyout. My cousin was one of the houses that was bought out.
Again, let's not talk about people
directly across from This is family. This is
I
somebody
understand, but
that
I can
know
bring up
personally.
John Murren, who will tell me it's not. So, I mean, I don't want to go that route. So just bring up your facts that you'd like to talk about.
No, I think I'm done. I think
All right,
we've
thank you.
spoken enough.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public like to address? I see a hand, please come on.
Good evening, Dorothy Mancini, 40 Durham Street, Pompton Lakes. You know, there's a lot, when the residents come up here, and I understand from council point, you know, you get a little annoyed, but I think, you know what, the residents have a lot of questions that are not answered. And the same thing, I mean, I came off, I liked what you said, because honestly, it sounds like you have a good idea. But I can't understand, our town and council, we have a lawyer, why can't we tell them, this is what we want? If you don't give insurance to our residents and protect our people who are taxpayers that pay for everything in this town, then you can't do it. There has to be a legal way.
We can do that, and then what will happen is, if we ask, and I have asked for that, I have personally asked for that, they'll just say, then we're pulling the permit, we're not going to do it. And that's fine. If that's what everybody wants, that's what's going to end up happening. They're going to pull this permit, and they're not, in my opinion, this won't happen.
But maybe that's not the right thing for the residents in Pompton Lakes. Maybe there's something else that they could do.
What is that something else?
I don't know, because...
And we don't either.
Listen, I don't have a scientific background. I don't know what you have. I don't know what each member of this council have. But if you're representing us, I mean, I never hear a negative about DuPont Chemours.
We're not talking about DuPont.
But wait a minute. But you do say negatives about residents that come up here, and it seems like it's a little annoying.
No, it's not annoying.
Well, that's my opinion.
And that's your opinion. And
Can
you're
I
allowed to have it.
finish?
Sure.
And then you can go on.
All right, that's how we'll do it, then go.
Okay. What I'm saying is, you should be represented, every one of you, and we have a lawyer. Why can't we do what's good for the people? We're all taxpayers. We live in a polluted area. We just had our taxes reevaluated. But like I said, I've been at many meetings with the DEP, EPA, everything. Not one council person says a negative. It's always positive. DuPont's doing their best. Well, really, are they? No. But that's actually what everybody's saying. When are we going to stand up for the residents? Like this horizontal well. I live on Durham Street. That affects me. My representatives, who we vote in, should be saying, listen, if you can't give these people insurance, because then they can't be sure of what they're doing. If they were so sure that we wouldn't have a problem, they would be able to insure us.
Hasn't that been said?
And then, but we have a lawyer here. What can our lawyer do for us? This is our town. This isn't the government's town. It's our town who we pay taxes to. We have a governor. So they should be able to say, look, this is what we want, or you can't do it. If we're not protected, they shouldn't be able to do it, because they haven't done a study to make sure the levels of the waters wouldn't affect our basements. And if our basements get flooded, that's contaminated. So, I mean, every one of you should be thinking of every one of us that live in that area. And not look annoyed because people get up and say the same thing. I mean, I watched that council thing on YouTube about the record, about Simsheimer. You know what? Maybe those people have something. They're telling the truth. They're trying to help the people
And
of
maybe they're
Pompton
not.
Lake. And maybe they're not. But maybe they are. But I don't see DuPont. DuPont really doesn't care about us. Come on.
All right, so your time is up. I'm going to have to answer.
Okay.
So I agree with a bunch of stuff you said. One of them is, again, I'm going to repeat myself. we support the fact that there should be insurance there. That's never been an issue from this council, at least from most of the council I've spoken to, that they support that. No one got up at the meeting and said, this is a good plan, go ahead with this. So I think, in my opinion, if the DEP is smart, that's a tough question right there, they will listen to the residents, they will listen to the mayor and council, and probably not go forward with this. That would be my suggestion to them, okay, because of the insurance issue. So that's the one part. The second part, you made the issue that we're your representatives. No, we're the town's representatives, okay? The town elects us here. You said it yourself.
But we're part of it.
Yes, you are. So if the town doesn't like what we're doing here, they're not going to put us up here, okay?
I don't think everybody that's not affected knows what's going on.
Oh, believe me, this affects the whole town. I've said this from day
No.
one. This is not a town, this is not a plume problem. This is a town problem.
Well, people feel you're putting a stigma if you talk about it.
I have always said from 10 years ago, this is a big problem for the town, not just for one area.
But I've lived in the town for many years, and I know many of the residents, and I know how many of them feel on my block
But again,
that have been DuPont workers, and they feel, you know, they get pensions, they're afraid, they don't want to open their mouths.
and I don't think anyone here has said DuPont is doing the best they can do.
I've never heard a negative,
I just said it, it's taking a long time.
but that's now. But I've never
I've said
heard
that many
any
times before
towns,
this.
no, I've been at many meetings,
All right,
I've
well,
never heard.
I'm not going to argue about opinion.
Okay.
The problem is, at the end of the day, the EPA and the DEP are running this site. Okay? You guys don't like what's done there. We need to talk to them. You need to talk to them.
Oh, we have.
I can't help more to tell you more than that. That's all.
But what about we
Our
have
attorney has nothing to do with this. He's our
so
attorney.
him as a lawyer has nothing to
Nothing to
do,
do with
he can't advise you what we could do more with this issue.
Right. He advises us for our business. Right now, it's a DEP and EPA situation. Their lawyers are deciding what has to be done. If you don't like it, have your attorneys speak to their attorneys and say, we don't like it. That's what has to be done.
But as a taxpayer, I don't think I should have to do that. This is our town, and you represent us as
And if we don't...
our town, and I don't understand. I can't get that through my
Well, I
head.
can't make
How
you understand
you
it.
guys would not have any authority.
It's not that we don't have any authority. The fact of the matter is, this is a site run by the EPA and the DEP. They come to us, they rarely come to us and say, should we do, they've never said, should we do this and do that. They do things based on scientific fact that they feel is correct, okay? Their data comes from what they find from years of history. It has nothing to do with, oh, this is DuPont, should we do this, or this is Pompton Lake, should we do that? That's not how it works.
But you mean to me, you can't go to the DEP or the EPA and say, listen,
What?
we want this insurance, and
I have.
and if we don't get it,
What does
no
happen?
go.
We don't get it, what happens? What can I threaten them with? We don't get it,
Well, in other words, people can come to our town and do anything they want, because these government officials
this is the
don't live
plan
in
that
our
was, this
town.
is the
We
plan,
live in
this
it.
is the plan put in place. Me saying, and the council has said, I'm going to say it again, it's the last time I'm going to say it, we support the fact that maybe this plan isn't the best plan. But we can't make the decision. They make it. There's nothing we can
That's
hold to
hard
the...
so hard for me to believe.
Well, thank you, Alderman. You're
Mayor, can I say something to
Sure,
Ms.
please.
Mancini?
Real quick. You'll be here all night.
Thank you. You came up here, Ms. Mancini, and you expressed a concern that we are not concerned with your interests. I can speak for myself when I say I'm not behind supporting the hydraulic surcharge without an indemnification for the property owners, all right? So your statement that we're not concerned with your concern is not accurate. What the mayor's trying to say is DEP and EPA is responsible for what Chemours has done with Pompton Lakes. The extent of what we can do is advocate for us. I know for a fact that the mayor advocates for this town every chance he gets. Every chance he gets, he advocates that the Chemours site gets what we need it to be. Unfortunately, because DEP and EPA has the jurisdiction over what has occurred, the only thing we can do is advocate, and we do that. So I don't want you to leave that podium thinking that we're up here not caring about...
I'm really legally gonna check in to see if our our governor party in town has no right to say you can do this
Well,
and
we
you
have the
can't do
right.
that.
We have the right, and we advocate.
No, we don't
They
have
don't
the
have, we have the right to say something.
Oh, yeah.
We have the right to say
But you
something.
don't have the right to say
We
to
don't
them,
have-
no, if you're not giving our residents insurance, you can't go through
This
with
is a plan
this.
put in place by scientific fact. This is what it's judged by. This has nothing to do with what we feel is good or bad.
But
And
I
I
know
gotta
my,
let you go. I'm sorry.
I know my 5 minutes is over,
is,
but
and there's a lot of people who
just
say-
let me ask this one
One question,
question,
go
and then I'm out of here.
Okay.
What happens if we are flooded? What will happen? Who will help us?
I agree with you 100%. I've said
So you're saying nobody here can help us? We're screwed?
No, what's going to happen is, at that point, we're going to go to the EPA and say, now what happens to my residents? They flooded, this is the concern we had, what happens? Shh. Please. Ms. Martin, I'm not going to ask you again, please.
It's a very short.
Okay. You know, we believe that they need insurance. We understand that. Now, that doesn't mean they're going to do it. Now, if it happens, then we're going to go back to those same people who put this plan in place and say, what's the next step?
Honestly, because I see what the lake, we're worried about turtles and that. Not that I'm an animal lover, 100%, but I'm a people. My house gets polluted and I'm living in that,
Well, I can't, again, I'm not
but you know what I
an
mean?
expert in that. I don't
Then
know what that
we're-
means.
Well, but then maybe we should be talking to experts.
They are the experts,
No,
unfortunately.
just come on,
But that's your
please.
opinion. All right,
Yeah.
thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else from the public like to address?
Millie Torsiello, 444 Midland Avenue. You know, I keep hearing the book from the mayor, they're lies. They're not lies. I was serving with the mayor Sinsheimer with those books, okay? And what he wrote on that book is what we did.
Where is this book?
I have a copy at home.
So could you show it to the public?
The public has it. He came and signed the book.
Oh, you mean the book?
The book, the book.
The book, I'm sorry, I thought you meant a book he had.
The book of the brook.
Yes, so the book that he
The
wrote,
brook. So I'm tired of hearing
it's a
that.
fictional story.
Well, I'm telling you now, I was there. I served
So you're saying
with
it's a true
him.
story?
It's a true story.
It's not, he himself says it's a fictional story.
It's because he cannot say it's
Well,
true.
but it's a fictional story.
But the other thing I wanted to say is this, which I probably can go back to all my paperwork of the things that we did pass in here. And when we found out that DuPont contaminated this town, we called them and we put them here, and they came here, and they had to testify what was wrong with our town, the contamination. We said to start cleaning, and they did. We also, when they started cleaning, they would,
That's a different cleaning. You're talking about lead
well,
mercury.
from the
It's
beginning.
different from what we're talking about now.
I know, but that's where it started.
Right.
But now, with 30
Lead and
years
mercury has
later,
history.
we got new things, and
Right.
knew this, and knew that. Right, but at the time, this is what we knew.
I understand.
And we did pass a resolution when they were carrying the dirt, contaminated dirt with trucks and going all over town. We said, no, you don't do that.
You've actually wrote a
Yes,
resolution?
and they
Can we pull
used
that
the
copy,
train.
please?
And they
So
used
we're
the
going to pull
train.
that copy if there's a resolution. If there is no resolution, then it wasn't passed.
Well, it was passed up here by us.
If
that
there's
they-
no written resolution, there's no
But you
resolution.
can go back to, they stopped using the trucks, and they were
Whatever they did,
using
you
the
said a
railroad.
resolution was passed.
Right.
If it wasn't a resolution, then it wasn't passed.
But it was passed, then the mayor called it, and we all voted on that they stopped
I
the
wasn't here, I
trucks.
can't say yes or no.
Well, I'm telling you, I was there.
Okay?
And we passed, we told
We're
them
gonna-
not to use
we're
the
gonna pull
trucks,
the
we
history.
used the train. So the dirt did not go through our town,
Mhm.
and our dirt, and our streets, and our kids. And we did those things.
Mhm.
And we did a lot of things then. But up until 1990, things were moving, they were working,
Because
and they're still
because it was
working.
lead and mercury had a history of how to treat that.
Right.
Because it's such a new thing, this vapor intrusion, there's no forward path on how to do this. So it's, everything's up in the air, and I agree, that's horrible, it's a horrible thing. Lead and mercury, they had a way to follow and move things along quickly. And I don't, look, my property was remediated for lead. I mean, I'm part of this,
Yeah.
I understand that.
We're all part of this,
Right.
the whole town is part of this, and it affects our kids. My kids were playing soccer over
Right.
there. When we found out it was contaminated, we pulled them all out.
Mm-hmm.
Why would I want my kids to be there? My daughter has problems conceiving, that's all part of it. And they did pay a lot of money to the residents, they pay out a lot of people.
They pay a lot of money to people, I know they did.
I know too.
Yeah, and they took the money, and unfortunately, that's what stopped you from following through.
Not stopped us, it was
This
your
back
council.
then. No, it wasn't, because we came out in 1990, and that's when it stopped.
But then once we
Then it
got
was
to
that council.
the lead and mercury, I don't think there's an argument. The lead and mercury, from all standards, has been cleaned up. There's no more issues with lead and mercury in this town that I'm understanding from the EPA and the DEP. They're now moved on to the vapor intrusion, which is a much trickier type of
But
treatment.
we never got the answer, where is the contamination coming from the source? Did they ever clean the source? No.
Well, that's the next step. The source is the next
But that should have been cleaned 30 years ago.
But that's what the buffer, that's what the...
Yeah, but they had done work on the property line.
The property, but not the source,
Well, that's-
not the
that's
hole.
part of the source.
The ground, where that hole
You have
is
to start
where
back at
it's
the plant.
spreading out.
All right, so here's what I'm
But
going to say.
anyway.
I'm going to suggest that everyone here, including myself, including the public here, we are not experts on what's going on there. Unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you look at it, the EPA and the DEP are our experts. That's what they're hired to do. That is, we could all have opinions, we could all have ideas, we could all say this could work, this won't work. At the end of the day, they're the ones that come up with the action plan to make this
Right.
work. If it's right or it's wrong, it's on their shoulders.
But we need to go after them. We need to
But we
tell
can't
them
say
to
if it's right or
explain to
wrong.
us. Explain to us the right
Oh, I
way.
agree with you. I agree with you 100%.
Why are you holding us back from the meeting? Why are you telling me that I have to change my statement when you should have been doing
Not
it?
correct. I don't
I'm not
appreciate
going
it.
to remember the statement I had. You had it in, you were taping it.
I agree with you 100%.
So they should be liable for that.
Again, I laid into the
Well, why
assistant
can, why
commissioner
can
about
you,
it.
right, yeah.
They told me this was an isolated incident. The gentleman walked away with all the comments. I said, that sounds crazy to me, I'll be honest.
Yeah, why would
I
you walk
said,
away?
I don't understand the whole situation. And then when they told me this, I said, this is not fair to my residents. We showed up in force there, and now you're coming back after the fact to say we need to redo this. I wasn't happy about it, and I reached out to some high-level people in the DEP, and they told me they messed up, they admitted they messed up, this is how we gotta fix it. That's
And
all I
how are they
can
going to
tell you.
fix it?
By
If
what
they
they're
haven't
doing
told
now.
you yet.
Well, I don't know what's taking so long. I don't know the answer to that. And again, like I told you, I will reach out again this week
And
to
this is
find
what
out.
goes on all the time, 30 years of this, constantly, 30 years.
The DEP should be here. I'm
They're
not
the ones
going-
that should have fixed the first place. They're the ones that should have fixed the problem in the first place,
I agree.
and they never have. And I think they should be responsible for all this. And maybe that's who needs to give these residents the insurance that they will never flood again. And if they flood, just sue them. That's all I have to say.
That's individually, that's what I would do if I was a
That's my
resident.
opinion.
But I understand
I
how
know
the
you're saying
residents...
my opinion. When I speak, it is my opinion.
Of course.
I'm not speaking for you, I'm speaking for me. Okay.
I got enough
But I'll
business
look up
speaking
the resolutions and things like that. But the other thought was talk about the deers. Well, my neighborhood never had deers except Randy's garden.
So you're blaming Randy, is that what you're doing?
I'm actually blaming him because he's my backyard. So he chased the deer from his yard, and I just bought this gorgeous, gorgeous purple rose. Well, this sucker deer, excuse my language, came and ate all my roses, came and ate all my flowers. I just finished spending hundreds of dollars, and here's this one deer eating the whole neighborhood. And we have children playing in the front
I
yard,
understand
playing in
it. I think your
There's
neighbor
gotta
should
be
pay for the rose
something.
bushes, what I think.
No, I'm charging Randy for the rose bushes. But it is a problem, it is a problem, and I wish you would consider
We
doing
understand
something.
it's a problem, we do. We
Because,
understand that. I see that, I have them, everyone sees them, they're everywhere. It's
Yeah,
a problem.
and it's a lot of
And the ticks
children.
bother, it's an issue, I understand that. But it has to be addressed as an area, it can't be addressed as one little spot on a map. And I've reached out to DEP again on this too. I
Because the
said,
residents are frustrated now.
I said, and they said, we understand this is your problem, we're researching it. I don't know what that means, but they're looking into it.
I think if we put a 12-foot fence all around my front yard, I think you will come and give me a summon or something.
We would, and they would jump over it.
And they would jump over. Talk about the children. Councilman Jack.
You got another minute, real quick, because I got a lot of people.
I'm still waiting for those signs for children to play in my block.
See, Bill Begg.
Well, I'm still waiting. I asked 6 months ago, I'm still waiting.
Yeah, he's still good.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public like to ask? Your hand was up first.
Good evening. George Popov, 1104 Colfax Avenue. Prior to the work that this council supported that the DEP and the EPA have done on the lake, and your collective smirk when you said that the lake was clean, I want to find out, what's the level of contamination that was left behind and covered by 6 inches of sand? Do you have a metric? Do you have a number?
Who are you asking that to?
You know? How can you sit there and say that the lake's been cleaned?
Because I'm going by the EPA and DEP, who are
How
the
did they back that up?
They're the ones
Said
who
it?
put the permit, yes. Yes.
Okay, you have no quantitative measure of it?
It's not my job to ask for quantitative measures from the EPA.
How can you confidently speak to us, the taxpayers, and say, the lake is clean, the job is done?
Because that's what I've been
They
told.
did 40 acres of 250 acres. There was contamination, and they used to issue reports like this with the averages, nice pictures. Now, cats can't come up with any numbers. You guys don't have any numbers and don't know, but yet you speak like, oh, the job's done. Let's all scream hurrah.
Have you brought this to the EPA?
Of course I have. I've spoken to both of them.
And what'd they tell you?
They told me that they don't have numbers,
So they told
that they don't require it of DuPont.
Did they tell you?
How can a contamination company like DuPont get away with that? Why are you letting them? They don't tell me he has no legal ability to go after those numbers. How can you confidently sit up there? You should be ashamed of yourselves.
Did the EPA tell you it was clean?
Yes, they said the same thing. All the work is done.
So
no future projects, no further investigation.
So what you're saying is the EPA is lying?
Yes, they're misleading me.
Then you need to bring that to somebody. We don't think...
I'm bringing it here tonight.
And we don't think the EPA is lying.
Okay, do you have any numbers to say?
No, I'm trusting the scientific fact that they've brought.
You're trusting?
Yes. That's what the EPA is for.
40 years of delay, and you're trusting, right?
I am, yes.
How about trust but verify?
Are you saying you're the verification?
Pardon?
Are you saying you are the verification?
I think the whole town deserves verification.
No, are you saying what you have in front of you is the verification?
No, this is what they used to issue. This is the average numbers of how contaminated it was.
So how are you
What I
saying
want to
it's
know,
not clean?
what's left?
What are you verifying to say it's not clean?
Well, one, they didn't touch 200 acres.
So you're saying
So
that's...
some of those are miraculously cleaned up.
So you're saying your verification is they didn't touch 200 acres?
That, and what did they leave behind?
According to what I understand, they've
Right.
left behind what is below base level that is allowed to be there.
And what is base level? Do you have a
I don't
metric for
know.
that?
Do you know?
No, I don't. I'm asking you.
And I don't know, no. So why would anyone here in this room know that?
Because you are responsible. They should be reporting to you at least these facts. It is cleaned up to this level.
That's not how they do it.
If that cover, that 6 inches of sand that I can't believe anybody would buy off on,
So you're
if that's
basically...
moved or destroyed, how much of that contamination
down-
can come back up?
What I understand is it's down to bedrock that they cleaned.
Bedrock?
Bedrock.
If you believe that, sir, you know,
So what you're telling me is the DEP and the EPA are lying, both.
it's not a question of whether they're lying or not. What facts have they provided you aside from, hey, you know,
So you
take
want
my word for it?
So you're asking to find facts from them? Is that
Yes.
what you want? I will ask for
They
facts.
should have a report.
I will ask them for facts.
Prior to that, the EPA asked of them, and they had borings and various levels at 6 inches, at 12 inches, at 3 feet. Right now, they said, yeah, we'll cover it up with 6 inches of sand, and just be gullible enough, the population of Pompton Lakes, all of us taxpayers who support this whole effort.
You're calling the public gullible. That's an opinion. We're not calling the public gullible.
Now, the public has been split up, it's been kept naive, and apparently you guys are naive as far as the numbers go.
I think they've done a pretty good job of trying to educate. Now, who shows up to those meetings? I can't make them show up. But I think
Shows up to what meeting, sir?
when the EPA has those meetings, do you ask these questions of them?
Yes.
And do they get back to you?
Yes, they did. They came back to me with misleading general statements.
So you're saying them misleading statements. You're calling them misleading statements.
Yes, GPS location does not mean anything about depth or level of contamination.
So you're an expert in that?
Pardon?
Are you an expert in that?
That's just logic, sir.
I don't know if that's right.
GPS
I'm not an
location. GPS cannot measure contamination.
Well, I'll have to bring that up to the EPA and ask them. I can't answer that. I don't know the answer to that. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to sit here and say I know about that.
And nobody else has gotten any numbers.
No one's going to know.
Nobody asked for quantitative
No, we're going
backup.
to... Most towns that deal with the EPA and DEP don't ask for qualitative information. They trust what the EPA, the federal government, is doing for them. and the local state government. If both groups are agreeing, I don't think someone's saying I need more proof. Now, you can,
I didn't say I needed more proof. You don't have any proof.
because we're trusting what they say.
That's right. 40 years of contamination, they touch less than 20% of the lake, and the whole thing is cleaned up.
I will ask them for facts for you.
Are we adults here or what? This is
don't
a
know.
fantasy.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else from public? Please step up.
Helen Martin, 59 White Way. You know, Mayor, you sit here and you say, this affects the whole town. Where are they? Where is the whole town? The whole town should be here in uproar over what goes on. If it affects them and it affects us, where are they? They don't show up. You know why? Because they call us the troublemakers. Because we're ruining property value. That the south end of town that floods, if they believe that they don't have any contamination, they're in denial. Because what is under our homes is down there from the flooding. And you ain't telling me anything different, and I don't need the EPA or the DEP to tell me that.
So you're saying you're an expert in that also, right?
Well, common sense, Mayor. Common sense. Come on, common sense.
It's not.
If it's flooded under our property, it's down there, and how many times has it flooded down the south end?
Nettie?
Come on. My son works for a company. He went in with mud up to his kneecaps. You mean to tell me the contamination ain't in there? It is. But everybody wants to believe it isn't.
They've done
And this room
testing
should be full with people complaining because we deserve better. On another hand, Mr. Sinsheimer was the only one that did anything to clean up this town, okay? If it wasn't for him finding those letters locked in that file cabinet that some council knew about and left it in the drawer, okay, to hide the secret, this wouldn't be here today. So when you say you have nothing to do, how come they had something to do with that? Don't tell me those files crawled in the drawer and locked themselves.
First of all, I'm going to address the files.
Okay.
There are no locked file cabinets in our municipal building. There's a locked door to my office.
Millie, wasn't there a locked file cabinet that he had to get a locksmith to open up and found those papers?
So we keep records of everything that is done from the town. Because it's been brought up numerous times, I've asked for all the resolutions that were written back then involving DuPont. I've asked for any information we have from back then. There is nothing there. Nothing.
No, because they're so long ago. So you don't believe anybody.
We got things from further back.
You don't believe what Millie says or
No,
what we say, but you believe what the DEP say
No,
and the EPA.
I believe a gentleman wrote a fictional story and sold the story to make money.
You shouldn't down him either if you don't know the facts then.
I'm not saying anything to him. Did he write a story?
Well, you say that it's fictional,
It
and that he
is.
didn't do this and he didn't do that.
It's a
And yet you
fictional
say you don't
story.
have any proof of
Are you
it.
saying it's not a fictional story?
I'm not saying it is or it isn't. He found the papers.
I'm asking you,
He
is it
went
fictional?
against DuPont. He fought to get that site
He
cleaned
did.
up, and he fought for the residents. So in my book, he's a hero.
Okay.
Because he saved those residents.
That's
Those
good.
residents went through a living hell.
I agree with you.
So why knock somebody that did something?
I'm not knocking him. What I'm telling you is he wrote a fictional story.
Mayor, I really believe that there could be more done for us residents, and you just want to say you can't do anything, because that's the easy way. And DuPont is telling the EPA what they're going to do and what they're not going to do. Do you really believe this is going to work?
Well, let me address your property values, okay? Unfortunately, I know some people in this room don't want to hear this. Their taxes went up in some areas of the plume because the comps, which is what they use to compare the selling of homes, is high in the plume. Houses selling in the plume are selling faster than anywhere in town and selling at a good price. Some people are getting over market price for their homes. Someone sitting at this council got over market money for his house. So when they did the comps, unfortunately, and I got a lot of calls from residents in the plume saying, how could my taxes be going up here? I'm in the plume. And I had to explain to them, because the comps in your area show the houses are selling there. So to say that your property value in the plume is affected, statistically, it doesn't show that. Now, separately from that, the town, going back to your concern about the whole town, I think there is a bubble over the town because of what DuPont did here. When people talk about Pompton Lakes, they always bring up DuPont in the conversation. It is a contamination that we know is there. No one's hiding that fact. We know they contaminated the property. We know, I've said it before, it's a slow process. It's taking too long to clean, but they're at least doing something to clean it. They're not in, let me finish, please. They're not in court trying to delay it and stop it. Now, this pilot thing, we all agree is probably not the best idea, but it was their idea. They were the one who brought it up to try it.
But if you realize they knew about this in advance.
I don't know that. I don't. How could I say I know?
They knew about it in advance, and they did drag their feet until everybody signed those agreements. And then they came through with vapor intrusion. They know what they're doing.
I can't address that, though. That's something you bring me.
It's funny how you can't address it.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public, please step up. Whoever, go ahead. Oh, you're running up here? Go ahead. Come on.
Dinner late there.
It's a late dinner tonight.
Late dinner.
Hi, good evening, council. My name is Kimberly Lupino from 39 Durham Street. My property does say with the railroad tracks behind my property. And according to this case study, the pipeline is supposed to be, or proposed to be buried 20 feet under the ground. It's my understanding that that measurement started from the highest point of where the railroad tracks are located. So it's, in essence, not going to be 20 feet underground, but 14 feet underground. That's one concern, if this pipeline does happen. Also...
I'm just a little confused. You say the pipeline meaning the pilot or the pipeline?
The water pipeline.
The horizontal well?
Right, yes, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Okay. Secondly, just some things I've been researching online. With any type of pipeline, whether it be oil or water pipeline that's been set up in residential areas, that property values have decreased. And I wasn't sure if the town council was aware of that, or was this part of the case study or part of town council discussion at all?
So so everybody understands, the county tells us when we have to do a property reval. We don't make that decision. The county tells us we have to do them. And we have to hire a company to do that. We don't do it in-house here. The company then does what they do in every town they go to, which is starts to figure out the values of every house on taxes by doing comps or comparable sales from houses in the same neighborhood. Same style house, there's a lot of things that go into a house.
Okay, I understand that, but I just bring this point up to you, to all of you, is that as a resident, I'm a fairly new resident of Pompton Lakes. I've only been here for 3 years, and, just listening to people express their fears and concerns, that's not coming from nowhere. That's coming from a place of passion.
Sure.
That these people, I live across the street from people who have lived in the area for 20 plus years. And to me, that means a lot. And that should mean a lot to you as a council as well, that you have such passionate residents. I love this neighborhood. I love this town.
Pompton Lakes is full of passionate people.
Well,
I'll tell you
right,
that.
but in a positive way, just moving forward, with property values going up and with this case study, I do not want this pipeline going behind my house. I mean, it is a huge concern.
So you understand the pipeline is a temporary thing. It's just a pilot to see if it works, then they would readdress how they do that. But I hear what you're saying. You don't want this for property value reasons and other reasons behind there. You probably, I don't know if you did go to the meetings they had or not when the EPA had them. Most of the residents, I would say 98% of the people that stood up there, including council, said they don't support this.
Right.
So hopefully the DEP is going to listen to that and say we don't support this. But understand, this was something brought forward to try to help eat away at the vapor intrusion problem. It's such a new science, they don't know what to do. It's new. They don't understand how to clean this really well yet. So this was a try. It might not even work.
Honestly, Mayor, I find that hard to believe that they don't know how to do that, because with all the technology, the advances in technology, I'm sure there are ways.
There's other areas in the country.
Excuses, and if this has been going on for 40 years, this back and forth in
no.
DuPont, what is our future going to look like?
So a couple things there are misleading. First of all, there's other areas in the country that have vapor intrusion that DuPont's not involved with. Same situation.
I'm just saying with DuPont in
No, I'm
general.
just saying, same situation. They have no way to clean it up yet that they figured out. The 40 years that all the residents and myself are talking about, most of that is lead and mercury going back, which they did clean up already. The vapor intrusion is the last 10 years or so that we've been dealing with the vapor intrusion. So the lead and mercury has been cleaned up. that 40-year span is both groups put together.
Okay, and also with the lake cleanup, I mean, I have watched from the beginning to now as it's, I guess, close to its end, where it is just a small portion of the lake being cleaned. My question, once again, I'm new to, this area. Was it ever addressed of why the cleanup was not started at Acid Brook from the top by DuPont and worked its way down to the lake?
So they
Has
cleaned
that ever been
Acid Brook
addressed?
up first.
Okay.
That was done already.
Okay.
And then the next highest levels that were read were right at the delta where Acid Brook drops into the lake. So they worked out from there. That was the highest level. And then they took core samples, like a gentleman mentioned, and through the EPA's evaluation of numbers, they decided this area needs to be cleaned out, this area is okay, this area needs to be cleaned out. I know there was a lot of talk for many years, that's what slowed the project down, of how much area should be done. Again, no one here is going to make that decision or even has the knowledge to make that decision. The EPA and the DEP came up with this plan of action to do this. This was sanctioned by both groups. This is how they came up with the 48 or 52 acres, whatever it is. But the Delta Brook, where it empties into the lake, was obviously the dirtiest part of it because that's where the Acid Brook was.
Okay. Just in closing, I mean, this issue with DuPont has been going for 40 years. These people just want, and we all want, a resolution. I mean, I want to have children in this town. I want them to grow up in this area, and I don't want my children to be dealing with this situation. Thank you.
Look, I agree with you 100%. I wish this was done tomorrow. If I lived in the plume myself, I would feel the same way. I live on the outs of it. Like I said, I had lead and mercury in the property on my house. But, this is something you live with every day. I understand that. It's the same way people in the flood zone live with flooding every day. It's something that's always in the back of their mind. It's not something that goes away. I wish I could wave a magic wand and it would all be clean, but it doesn't work that way. Our government is notoriously slow. It's how they work. I can't make them work faster. I can threaten them. I can stamp my feet. I can say I'm not going to do things. That ain't going to make them work any faster. They're doing what they can do. And I know everyone puts down DuPont, and rightly so. They've done a lot of damage to this town. But I will tell you this. There's a lot of other sites in states that have a polluter who fights it in court and doesn't put a shovel in the ground for 50 years. Okay? Well, at least we got something going forward. It might not be the perfect plan, but at least something's going forward. If DuPont tomorrow decides we're fighting this, we're done. What are we stuck with? We're stuck with a property that's going to be dirty for the next 100 years. And the residents are still staying in those houses. So it's not an easy fix. There's a lot of information out there. I tell everybody the best thing you can do, and I think a lot of people in this crowd are, to get educated on all the facts about what's going on. From the EPA, from the DEP. That's the biggest plan of action any individual person can take. I will tell you that Catherine McCabe said in her report when she was called in Congress, when she was getting appointed in the state capitol, somebody asked her a question about Pompton Lakes. They brought up Pompton Lakes. And she said, I can't understand at this day and age how residents in the plume still do not have systems on their houses. To her, she was caught completely off guard by that.
Can I say something?
You can't.
That is the standard, and they allow some people to go in and get retested and take them off. Why do they do that?
So I'm not going to, please, no talking from the others, but they changed, you were given the option as a resident to have your numbers if you had 0 readings to have it removed. Some residents decided to do that. You can't tell them not to do that. That's up to the resident to decide, not the state.
They told me I should.
All right, thank you, but there are people who don't want it. Anyone else in the public? I know some other hands are up. Please step up. You can come up next.
Susan Nate, 22 Orchard Street. You talked about the flood insurance, and you said that if our homes were to flood, then you could see if you could help us.
No, I can't help you. Still can't help you.
You might be able to. But what good is that if that contamination's in our homes?
No, what I'm suggesting is, I have told them they want flood insurance. They're obviously not listening to me. If they were to flood, at that point, I would say, go back to those same people who told me this wasn't going to happen. You need to address this now. You need to fix the flooding that's gone there. These residents brought this to you, I brought this to you, and it's happened. Now you have to fix it. And I'm sure they would not walk away. The EPA is not
But
going to
if
walk
it's
away.
underneath our homes and it's bad, if it comes in our homes, they're not going to ever get rid of that.
Well, look, I'm not an expert, but what I understand is the flushing water into the system. So water is what would come into the system. And again, you should ask the EPA this. I'm not the one to ask these questions. I don't know the contaminants, how they would move into the home, or if they would do that. I don't know that answer. But what they're doing is flushing clean water into the rock to try to push it through. If it's going to work, they don't even know it's going to work. But I understand the concern about flooding. I get it. So that's something that has to be
And if
addressed.
we flooded, would our system shut down?
Which system?
The systems we have in our homes?
The systems would probably, if they're in the basement, I would think have to shut down. But I've been told, again, by the EPA and DEP, that having a shutdown for a day or 5 days is not making a difference on the long haul of everything. It's over a long-term exposure to something. So, some people's systems break down and they have to be repaired, and they've been told you can stay in the home until we fix it a couple days from now and you'll be fine. Same thing, I know someone brought up the soccer fields. I was president of the soccer association when that happened. I reached out as president of the soccer association, concerned for the kids that were playing soccer there, and was told once it reaches the outside air, it dissipates, it just goes away into the atmosphere, and it doesn't concentrate. It has to be in an inside building to build a concentration. So they said there's no issues about playing soccer. But I was concerned because our kids were playing there. My own kids were playing. So, I understand how that can affect you.
Okay, I'd also like to know, is there anything going to be done with that Shiler house on Perrin Ave? There are garbage.
I'm working on it right now.
Full of garbage.
The problem is, there is actually an owner of that house, still, and we find the owner, and of course, they're not paying any of the fines or taking care of it. We can't go on a property that's owned by an individual because it's trespassing. So we're trying to work out a deal with the person who owns the home to let us go on there and remove all the junk that's there. I did take care of another home on another street that had the same situation. It's not an easy battle, though. When someone owns the home, and maybe the administrator can help us, you know which one we're talking about? In front, next to the Elks Lodge there on there.
They did some work there, so the private contractor did some work there, but you're right, Mayor. Sal Holy and the gentleman from the building and property maintenance have been on that. The owner was brought to court, he didn't show. He lives in Jersey City. We're also trying to work the case. The property mentioned Central had a different story because the owner passed away, and we have a responsible party. We're trying to get them to do the responsible thing.
So we normally, if a property is owned by a bank who doesn't take care of it, we can then go cut the property and then bill the bank, and then the bank would reimburse us. Since it's still owned by an individual, we can't go on the property because it's trespassing. They would press charges against us. So all we can do is fine him at this point until he loses the house, which is look like he's doing. I know the Elks has reached out to them to see individually if they could even go on their property and they would clean it up for them, they said. I know they're trying to go that route to see if that can happen. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? I saw another hand back there. Okay, come on up.
Karen Dean, 24 Central Ave, Pompton. Did you get my message?
I did, thank you.
Thank you very much. They came and cleaned up the vulture area.
And it was a mess, I'm not gonna lie, it was a mess.
It was a mess. So anyway, I wanted to say, when they had was it EPA or
EPA
meeting,
yeah.
Whatever I said, I got an email back of my wording, and it was completely off.
And there's the problem.
So I didn't know I shouldn't have emailed her back and told her what it really said, because I didn't know we weren't supposed to do that, but I did. And I had told Perry, and I had told Pat. Pat said she would contact them, but I never heard from her.
So we all understand EPA and the DEP work in conjunction to do this project, but of course the EPA is staying away from this whole mess and saying, this had nothing to do with us, this was the DEP. But I've heard from other residents who told me the same thing. I don't remember what I said 6 months ago, and now they're asking me to remind what I said.
I knew exactly what I said, and they got all messed up.
I will make this...
It was about me losing my job because of DuPont.
I would make this suggestion if you think it's important, and I think it is important enough that they hear the notes again, that the residents in this room, if they feel that it's not going the way they want it, they should put it in writing in an email back to the DEP, just so they see more of the same. I mean, I don't want them to go off whatever number of comments they have. I don't know how many comments they have. You know, let's get another group of emails out to them stating, we don't want this to happen. I think they have to pay attention to that. They don't have support to have it, so I don't see why they would move
I just want to remind everybody, when this all started with DuPont doing the lake, they came here with all the pretty pictures for how they were going to do it. And if you recall, Katie was the mayor then. And I was sitting in the back, and I want everybody to remember, I didn't know these people all in suits were DuPont people, and laughing. Oh, they really think we're going to clean up the whole lake? Laughing. And I told Katie, and Mr. Epps called me at work.
Oh, I remember this, yes.
So I just want you all to remember that DuPont sat there laughing that we thought they were going to clean up, we think they're going to clean up the highway.
Those people, not DuPont. Those
Those,
people.
not you, DuPont.
No, those particular people were laughing, not
Right,
DuPont.
no, those people, well, they were DuPont workers.
Yeah.
They were the suits, you know, so,
Absolutely.
okay?
All right, thank you. Anyone else from the public? Please step up. Sorry, you'll go next.
How are you doing?
Oh, it's a long night. I'm not gonna lie.
Sandro Mancini, Durham Street, 40 Durham Street, Pompton Lakes. You know what? I think people in here would just like to see that this council here take charge of this situation. That they have to come up here time and time again and just repeat themselves. So they need people like you people who were elected to say, even when you have your meetings, bring up what they've been doing for the month. You know, let people know. If they don't know, and it's a good thing we have a CAG, because that's how we find out things that's going on, instead of from the mayor and council. And as far as Samsung book and all, you say it's a phony book?
I never said it's a phony book.
Well, the thing is, it's fiction. Well, you know, I'm sitting here tonight listening to this, and I think this whole thing's fiction. There's nothing true here.
But his
Because
book
nobody's
says
doing
fictional.
anything. Nobody's doing anything.
That's your opinion.
But I would
We
like
think we're doing
to,
something.
what I would like to see, I come to meetings and stuff, and I listen, I don't come up here that often. But I think you people should take charge. And it's not about, downtown, or the flood, or Dubai, it's about the whole town.
I agree.
Take charge. That's all you have to do, is take charge. Let people know what's going on and all. And if there's a problem, we'll discuss it, and you go down there and you represent us. That's all we're asking for. And if it wasn't for Lisa and the CAG, we wouldn't be here today fighting this, and DuPont wouldn't be cleaning. And that's how I feel very strong about that.
I don't think they would not be.
Because in the beginning, we had 2 tags.
We did, I was.
This
part
will
of it.
survive. You know why? Because we back it up, and we're trying to hold DuPont to the fire here, to make sure they do
So
what
let's
they're
talk-
supposed to do.
Let's talk about.
And that's what we like to have you people do for us, instead of letting Lisa and a few other people do all the work. Represent us. That's all we ask for. Nothing else.
So let's
Okay.
talk about the CAGs. I know Councilman Jacanetta makes.
Yeah, he comes, but nobody else. I've never.
I come, I just, this
You
Monday.
come once in the blue moon.
No, I have only missed.
Once in the blue moon.
I'm not gonna argue, but at the
3
end of the
times,
day.
3 times.
At the end of the day, I also got you the Civic Center to have your meetings there. You're not really allowed to have your meetings there,
Why not?
because it's only for town groups. This is not an
This is a
official.
town group.
This is not.
We live in
an
town.
official. It's not official town group.
Is AA
What-
a town group?
AA is a separate plan that they work out years and years ago. That's 30 years ago. I have no problem with you being there, I'm just saying.
Well, listen,
I
you know
got
what,
Girl
that's
Scouts
where
in
you
there.
back us up and take, use the room. This is where your leadership takes over, say, go ahead, guys, I know you need a place.
And that's what we
Use
did,
it.
but I'm taking
No,
offense
no.
to the fact that you're saying we're not doing anything, and I think we are.
Because I feel that way, that's my opinion.
That's your
Nobody
opinion.
else's opinion. That's my opinion, because I come to meetings, I listen. Very rarely do I come up here, you know that.
I know.
So I just wanna know, all you guys up there and gals, back the town up.
Thank
That's
you.
all we ask for.
I agree.
That's it, thank you.
Thank you. Another hand, sir, go ahead.
I'm Kathleen McSweeney Finley, 61 Jefferson Avenue. I lived in Pompton Lake since 1952, born and raised here. My husband, Thomas Finley, he has 2 masters, a master's in MBA and a master's in computer science. Became very sick with Parkinson's disease. Didn't know where that came from. Took him to the Muhammad Ali Center, and they explained to me that he was exposed to some kind of chemicals. My husband spent much of his time in my cellar, in his cellar, and they really feel very strongly that's where the contamination is. My husband right now is fighting for his life. He's been diagnosed at age 57, a very intelligent, smart guy, has battled everything you can imagine with Parkinson's. Thank goodness to the Pompton Lakes First Aid Squad. They are fabulous. They have been fabulous with me. The police department, the young guys that come in there, they're nothing but fabulous with me. They're very respectful to him, bring him back and forth to the hospital. Can we just stop this? I love this town. I've been in this town all my life. I lived in the lower end. I'm now here on 61 Jefferson. It's got to stop, and I don't see that happening. He's not going to make it, okay? I'm also sick from DuPont. I don't know how long I have. I'm still working. I'm a school administrator. We just have to stop, and I'd love to see my town survive this, and nobody else gets sick from this like he is. And I know there are people who have passed away from this, and who will continue to get sick from this. I'm just asking this to please, let's stop this craziness in this town. I love this town. But when you talk about Pompton Lakes, outside Pompton Lakes, you're seen as, oh, you're polluted.
I get you.
And that's not okay with me.
That's not okay with anyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, and I hope things get better for you. Anyone else from the public like to address? Seeing no one, can I have a motion to close the public session?
Second.
Councilman Devine? Second. Councilman Jack Neto, all in favor?
Aye.
Against? Okay, approval of minutes. Motion to approve the following minutes. Regular meeting minutes of June 13th, 2018.
So moved.
Councilman Borrego.
Second.
Council President Reichert, all in favor?
Aye.
Against? Bills and claims. Motion to approve the following bill list as stated below.
So moved.
Councilman Bay.
Second.
Councilman Bennett, all in favor?
Aye.
Against? Oh, we got a president. One president, Liz.
I'm voting
President. Consent agenda, whenever you're ready, Liz. Anybody ask me anything? No. Which one? Hold on, wait 1 second, please.
Poll number 14, have it voted on separately.
Okay, number 14, we'd like to vote on separately.
Okay.
14.
Number 14.
Number 14. You should have a new agenda? They got, Liz, is the new, it's on the new, old agenda?
It's on the new agenda.
I got it on mine, but some people say they don't have it.
I couldn't get it up there.
You should have had agendas left for you.
I have no folder.
Well, I'll grab you some over there. Chris, could you just grab all those, the agendas down there?
I need yours.
How about you guys? You can start on the first 13 and then we'll get some spreadsheet. You can take a look at it.
Okay.
No, it's a resolution. All right, because everybody pulled. All right, so you can use it. I'll pass it down. Oh, thank you. Here's one. Yeah, I've seen the resolution. All right, go ahead, Liz, I'm sorry.
Okay, I did email it to everyone.
Okay, yeah, it was emailed, yes.
Whereas the mayor and council of the borough of Pompton Lakes have reviewed the consent agenda consisting of various proposed resolutions, and whereas the mayor and council of the borough of Pompton Lakes does desire to remove resolutions for individual action from that agenda, now therefore be it resolved, following resolutions on the consent agenda are hereby approved. Resolution 18-127 through 18-139.
Can I have a motion? Councilman Branco?
Second.
Councilman Giaconetti? All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Okay, 14.
Resolution pursuant to NJSA 4828 approving the application of Pompton Lakes 5 Associates Urban Renewal LLC for long-term tax exemption, 223 Wanacue Avenue, Block 6300, Lot 34, the CJN Code.
Can I have a motion?
You'll have discussion after you know, but just so everyone knows what this is on the council, this is the resolution for Pompton 5 Associates Urban Renewal. This is a redevelopment resolution that approves their application for long-term tax exemption and makes a pilot, which, as we all know, is more beneficial monetarily to the municipality than regular taxes. So I wanted this one pulled for a separate vote, so take a roll call vote on it.
Can I have a motion?
Motion.
Councilman Begg? Second. Councilman Bennett, discussion? So this is what we call the Fortunato property. Oh, no, I'm sorry, no, CJM, I'm sorry, CJM.
It's not 223 Wanacue.
Yeah. Okay, roll call, please.
I'm just going to use last names. DeWine,
Yes.
Giaconetti,
Yes.
Riker,
Yes.
Brennan,
Yes.
Day,
Yes.
Marenko.
Yes. Okay,
Ordinances for first reading.
first reading, yes.
This, they'll presented for second reading and final adoption on July 18. Ordinance 18-15, an ordinance amending Section 18-1, Chapter 18 of the Borough Administrative Code, Fire Prevention.
As we discussed at the last meeting concerning this ordinance, all it does is change 2 or 3 words in the ordinance so that we don't have to correct the administrative code every time the universal fire code is changed which changes every couple of years.
Motion to approve ordinance 18-15 for introduction. Councilman Branco.
I'll second it.
Councilman Day. Roll call, please.
Devine.
Yes.
Jacanetta.
Yes.
Riker.
Yes.
Lennon.
Yes.
Spade.
Yes.
Marenko.
Yes.
Ordinance 18-16, an ordinance authorizing granting of an easement to Pompton 5 Associates Urban Renewal LLC for redevelopment of 223 Montague Avenue, Block 6300, Lot 34.
Again, as we discussed at the last meeting, the reason for this ordinance granting an easement to Pompton 5 Associates is because the redevelopment agency, in doing its review, and the planning board in doing its approvals, determined that the easement was necessary in order for the location to properly work in the municipality. So it actually comes as a request of the borough. It's not really a
Request of the
the
borough.
applicant, right?
They did some research on it, and there were some things that had to be changed. Motion to approve ordinance number 18-16 for introduction. Council President Riker. Second. Councilman Devine. Councilman Bennett. Roll call, please.
Devine.
Yes.
Jacanetta.
Yes.
Riker.
Yes.
Lennon.
Yes.
Spade.
Yes.
Marenko.
Yes.
Ordinance 18-17. An ordinance amending appropriation ordinance of the Borough of Pompton Lakes in the County of Passaic, New Jersey, heretofore adopted May 23rd, 2018, 18-10.
We had done an ordinance to appropriate funds out of surplus accounts. Unfortunately, somewhere along the line, I made an error. I'm not sure if there was money charged to the old ordinances in between time I had reviewed it in terms of the resolution. So you go back to resolution 18-138, I had to rescind what was originally canceled, and only canceled 58,000 out of those ordinances to zero them out. And then we just took that difference and split money out of the capital surplus and capital improvement fund. So again, there's no debt involved, but it still funds those ordinances, those projects, but we had to kind of move the money around a different way.
Okay. Motion to approve ordinance number 18-17 for introduction. So moved. Councilman Devine. Councilman Branco. Roll call, please.
Devine.
Yes.
Jacanetta.
Yes.
Riker.
Yes.
Lennon.
Yes.
Spade.
Yes.
Marenko.
Yes.
Ordinance for second reading and final adoption. Ordinance 18-12.
I think you skipped 18.
18-18.
18-18.
18.
Which is the first reading.
An ordinance authorizing tax exemption and payment in lieu of taxes for development plan for Block 6300, Block 34, and adopting and authorizing the execution of a financial agreement for payment in lieu of taxes with Pompton 5 Associates Urban Renewal LLC pursuant to State Statute 223 Montague Ave, Block 6300, Lot 34, CJF.
This is a redevelopment ordinance, which is the companion ordinance to the resolution I just asked you to vote on separately. The resolution authorizes the long-term tax exemption, and this ordinance approves and authorizes the financial agreement, which has been reviewed by all of our experts, been reviewed by our accountant, our auditor. I've reviewed it for the legal issues, the administrators reviewed it. And now that it's all been done, this is the last step in approving the redevelopment provisions for the Pompton 5 Associates urban renewal redevelopment.
And anybody who's using an older paperwork, that won't be listed there. So if you need it, I have it here.
We have it, we have it, we just don't have it here.
Okay. Motion to approve ordinance number 18-18 for introduction.
So moved.
Councilman Jacanetta. Councilman Devine. Roll call, please.
Councilman Devine.
Yes.
Jacknet,
Yes.
Riker,
Yes.
Bennett,
Yes.
Bay,
Yes.
Maranko.
Yes.
So now
Second reading.
And final adoption, they've been advertised and posted. Ordinance 18-12, an ordinance providing for a public question by referendum which, if approved by the voters, would expand the permitted use of the existing open space parkland and recreational facilities, preservation and acquisition trust funds set forth in the Borough Administrative Code pursuant to state statute.
Motion to open the meeting for public comments on ordinance 18-12.
So moved, Mayor.
Councilman Marenko?
I'll second.
Council President Riker? All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Anyone have any concerns or questions about just this ordinance? Seeing no one, can I have a motion to close the public session?
So moved.
Councilman Begg? Councilman Devine? All in favor?
I'm gonna take a roll call on this ordinance.
Well, all in favor to close this.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay. Motion to approve the ordinance
No discussion on this?
We can have
We
discussion.
can have discussion next.
Yeah, next.
I had the question in the last meeting.
Well, wait,
We have to make a motion
Put it on the floor
I got to
first.
put it on the floor and then you can.
Okay.
Motion to approve ordinance 18-12 for final adoption.
So moved.
Councilman Devine? Councilman Jacanetta. Now we can have discussion. You have a question?
Okay,
Concern?
so I think the council in the last meeting, made it clear to me, the word of the use, would expand the permitted use of the existing open space, parkland, and recreational facilities. You know, we're talking about public monies. I really wanted a explanation as to what the word expand means. I know that we want to be able to use monies for improvements, and that the original, open space fund was only for acquisition of land.
No,
Is that correct?
That's not accurate.
Okay, could you explain that? please?
Yeah, the purposes, for the use purposes haven't changed at all.
Okay.
The difference between one and the other of the original ordinance and the proposed new ordinance is that the original ordinance only permitted expenditures on properties that were purchased with open space funds.
Okay.
This one will allow the expenditure of funds on all properties owned by Pompton Lakes for those purposes,
That's what I
recreation, parkland, and
That's what I
open
wanted to
space.
be clear.
That's the only difference. The uses are the same as they've always been.
Thank you.
Any other questions? None? Can I have a motion to approve ordinance 18-12 for final adoption?
So moved, Mayor.
Councilman Branco?
Second.
Councilman Devine? Roll call, please.
Devine,
Yes.
Jacknet,
Yes.
Riker,
Yes.
Bennett,
Yes.
Bay,
Yes.
Maranko.
Yes.
Ordinance 18-13, an ordinance amending section 50-3 of the Code of the Borough of Pompton Lakes entitled Compensation by increasing the compensation to members of the Pompton Lakes Municipal Utilities Authority.
Motion to open the meeting for public comments on ordinance 18-13.
So moved.
Councilman Devine?
Second.
Councilman Branco? All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Anyone from the public like to address just this ordinance? Seeing no one, can I have a motion to close the public session?
So moved.
Council President Riker?
Second.
Councilman Bennett? All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Motion to approve ordinance 18-13 for final
I'll
adoption.
move that, Mayor.
Councilman Branco?
Second.
Councilman Begg, any discussion? Roll call, please.
Devine,
Yes.
Jacknet,
Yes.
Riker,
Yes.
Bennett,
Yes.
Bay,
Yes.
Maranko.
Yes.
Ordinance 18-14, an ordinance amending downtown Pompton Lakes redevelopment plan, block 7,000, lot 4, 317 Montague Avenue, Motor, Edgewater.
Motion to open the meeting for public comments on ordinance 18-14.
So moved.
Councilman Devine?
Second.
Council President Riker? All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Anyone from the public like to address just this ordinance? Seeing no one, motion to close the meeting for public comments on ordinance 18-14.
So moved.
Councilman Begg?
Second.
Councilman Vetting? All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Motion to approve ordinance 18-14 for final adoption.
So moved.
Councilman President Riker?
Second.
Councilman Devine? Roll call, please.
Devine,
Yes.
Oh, discussion, I'm sorry, discussion. Any discussion? No. Roll call, please.
Devine,
Yes.
Jacknet,
Yes.
Riker,
Yes.
Bennett,
Yes.
Bay,
Yes.
Maranko.
Yes.
Done.
Okay, under my report, I have a motion to appoint the following members to the Shade Tree Commission. Danielle Denti to fill in an unexpired term through December 31st, 2020. Can I have a motion? So moved. Or second. Second. No, I can't make the motion, yes. So Councilman Venon, I need a second. Second. Councilman Deline, all in favor? Aye. Against? Okay. Under... No, not yet. Okay, under my report, I attended the recreation meeting last night, and they just wanted to bring out some dates. Right now, we have 143 kids signed up for summer camp, which is up from last year. You can still, if you're interested in signing up your child for summer camp, you can show up at Hirschfield Park at 9 o'clock in the morning. We're still taking applications. I think at the end of the week, we'll be closing down applications for summer camp. Because we have to keep the number of counselors equal to the number of children we have there. There will be a late fee if you do decide to sign up. We will also be having a middle school camp starting July 9th to July 20th. You can sign up online, or there's applications here on the bulletin board. It's $100 for 2 weeks, or $75 for the first week. It's held at Lakeside School from 10 to 12. Of course, don't forget, Pompton Day is coming up. They are looking for new vendors this year. They'd like to add some more food vendors and more craft vendors. So if anybody knows anybody interested in doing something like that, please contact Karen Murphy, or you can contact myself, and we'll get you on there. The spaces do fill up fast, so we're trying to get a better mix of what we have in Pompton Day. There'll be some new events there. Unfortunately, this year, the field, Lakeside Field, will be closed because they'll be doing some work on the field over there, so a lot of the sports groups that we normally do over there will not be happening this year, so we're going to hope to fill it with some other new and exciting things. The teen center has been being used a lot recently. The cheerleaders are in there Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, the local cheerleaders. They also have a yoga class on Mondays and Wednesdays, 7:15 to 8:15. It's $5 each time you go to the class. You do not have to sign up. You just have to show up and be I don't even know if you have to be a Pompton Lakes resident, but it's Mondays and Wednesdays, 7:15 to 8:15. They will be mailing out a brochure soon with all the events that the Recreation Department does. I'm sure everyone is aware that the Recreation does a great job here in town. There's a lot of events for our kids here in town. You know, I'm a firm believer in keeping our kids busy, especially in the summer months when they're off from school. Idle hands can cause trouble sometimes, so we like to keep them busy. So there's a lot of things going on for them. There's a walking club, there's volleyball, there's tennis. Just look at the list. There's many things there. I should announce that the library is doing some mold remediation in the building. The library is still open. It's still able to be used. But if you go into the library and you see some men working in there or plastic up, that's what they're doing. We had a leak in the roof a couple years ago, and it caused some mold behind the walls, and we're trying to clean that up. So I know some residents reached out to me about what was going on. Hopefully, we'll maybe get a sign put up in the library.
You're done.
They're actually done? They're finished? Oh, so with the finished stuff, that's even better. Like I said, we met with our grant writer today, and we had some opportunities to reach out for some grants, and I think the one that caught our eye is this working on the rivers, and maybe try to get some money to help with the trees that are in the rivers right now. I think our group here does a great job in cleaning the rivers, but unfortunately, storms keep coming no matter how good a job we do. So we can do a great job, and a month later, a storm comes in and knocks a bunch of trees in the river. We don't have endless funds to actually pull those trees out all the time. We have set a budget of a year, how much we want to spend in the rivers. That money is put aside to do that. So if we could get some grant money to help us, that would be a great help. We addressed the signs. I had to get some calls from residents about the signs don't belong on monuments, and I agree, they shouldn't have been put there, and we'll be removing them at the end of this weekend. I attended a football dinner with a couple of the council people up here. Always have a fun time there. Good to see the local groups trying to raise money for our local sports organizations. And I'm going to keep my report short. That's what I got. Councilman President Riker.
Okay. Mayor, I'll be brief. Before we started, for the benefit of some in the audience and those watching at home or on the computer, we had a fabulous presentation by the Flood Advisory Board. And Lauren Bennett, I'm thrilled that you're still in the audience, that you can hear our thanks. It was informational. It was very slick. Had lots of facts, lots of information, and it's really a pleasure that we're really taking tremendous advantage of our new monitors up here. And it really, the presentations are really, we're getting so much more out of them. So congratulations to you and your committee. You said, if I'm not mistaken, you're going to make the presentation. You'll give copies to Liz, so she'll be able to post them so people can know exactly what I'm talking about. But thank you. The other thank you that I'd like to do is, in today's mail, what's that?
You got your calendar ready?
I got mine today.
No, I did not.
Oh, okay, well, I got mine today. So in my mail today, I got the new borough calendar. Those folks who are new to town, this is like the Pompton Lakes Bible. You know when your garbage is going to get picked up. You know when all the events in town are, and kudos to you and those who work with you. I know it's a lot of work. Also, at the last council meeting, one of my pet projects is to make sure, especially this time of year, that the kids who are out and about are wearing their helmets. And Liz, thank you for reaching out to get the kids, get the police the little coupons they need to show positive reinforcement for wearing those helmets, because it really kills me to see some of the kids in town without helmets. It's just an unnecessary danger, and it's against the law. The other thank you that I wish to make is, last council meeting was the mayor's birthday, and I mentioned that we have a lot of June birthdays here on the dais. One of them happens to be mine, and many of you sent me good wishes. I had a big birthday this year, so I guess I had lots of celebrations. And those who I celebrated with did some posting on Facebook. So those of you who congratulated me, thank you.
I saw you on television today.
Oh, was I? I made it on TV? Oh, okay. Well, one is to share with the others. Okay, I would have brought my placard. I haven't. I just got back into town. I guess because it was a big birthday, you get together with those who are near and dear to you. So I got together with my childhood friends. We've spent the last few days in New York City, and one of the things we did, and frankly, I wasn't going to talk about that, but I'll quickly. Everyone always talks about how New York City is so expensive and this, that, and the other thing. Well, we did something that was just fabulous, and it was free. And what we did, and it's really a fun activity, and quite frankly, they're looking for families and young kids. My girlfriends and I got up very early in the morning, and we stood at the Today Show Plaza. And we had big placards, and we wore tiaras, and we did all sorts of stuff to get ourselves on TV, so I guess it worked. But what they really wanted were the young kids. So apparently, if you go with young children who are off from school, it's really a fun activity, and they do all sorts of things when they're not taping. So I encourage anyone who hasn't done it. It's a lot of fun.
You can borrow mine for the day.
Okay. Your children or your tiara?
I don't have a tiara. So I would say both.
Okay, but I did do something more serious after we did the Today Show, and that was going to be in my report. Afterwards, we had made reservations to go down to the 9/11 memorial, and there's a memorial, and there's a museum, and they have really fabulous tours, and it's really something really special. But what really struck me, and what I wanted to share with the folks up here, is that our tour guide made an observation which perhaps we need to be reminded of. He looked around at some of the people on the tour and asked them how old they were. When you go back and think how long 9/11 was, everyone who's graduated, any of our children who have now graduated from school, we're not aware, we're not around during 9/11, which really puts a tremendous onus on us to make sure we have an entire generation now that may have no idea. It's our obligation to make sure that they do have an idea. And it really hit home with me that we do a really very moving ceremony here every year, and we have tremendous participation, especially by the Scouts. And it really drove home the point. I know you talked about the involvement of our volunteers and our residents and stuff. It drove home just how tuned in we are and how important it is, and make sure that we do everything we can to really continue to bring the community together for that event. Let me just quickly look at my notes. There is, I just want to highlight, since there seems to be a couple different agendas out there, there are a couple of key dates on the agenda, the bottom of the agenda. Before our next council meeting, we have that townwide garage sale, which is really a lot of fun, so encourage your friends and family to participate. The bid did meet since we last got together on the council, and they remarked that the bid box sale was very successful, and they also want to remind people that they have a really full concert series this year, to please encourage people to come. It'd be better if they didn't do it on council nights, but
Well, they got
canceled. Well, that's because they did it on a council night.
On June 3rd, that's interesting. I mean, yeah, July 3rd.
July 3rd. The last thing is, those of you up here, you know we all have new email addresses. Well, the new email addresses are also going to require that we have new business cards. And so what Liz has mocked up a sample, but she needs your input on. So she mocked up a sample, and I put some scribbles on it, but we're really just looking for your input to see what you want on it and what you don't want on it. So I'll leave that with you, and if you can get to me and Liz, in the next couple of weeks, so we can get them printed so they're accurate. And Mayor, that's my report.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to bring up, there are some other dates coming up. National Night Out is August 7th. It'll be here in the high school parking lot. And August 9th is the senior picnic at the Elks Lodge.
There she is.
Oh, you're up there. Look at that. See that? There you go. August 9th. And the one thing I should add, too, at Pompton Day this year, the Elks will be holding a carnival. At the same time, we'll be having Pompton Day, so there will be rides for the kids over at the Elks Lodge with their own little festival going on from Wednesday to Sunday. So look forward to that. Councilman Branco.
Thank you, Mayor. So on the library side, I'm very pleased with Mayor and Council for resolutions 18-129 and 130 for the mold problem at the library and the construction after remediation, which is nice. On the MUA side, ordinance 1813 for the MUA folks, 6 years, only 2 raises. I thought it was time, so I thank the Mayor and Council for that as well. On the rec side, somebody mentioned it earlier, the townwide garage sale, Saturday, July 14th. And the free concerts, which are doing pretty well on the lawn night, from what I can tell. We moved one to July 3rd, July 18th and July 25th are still scheduled, and August 23rd from 7 to 9 p.m. National Night Out is August 7th. We still have some time for that, but it's good to know that that's coming up. Those are always fun, National Night Out. That's my report, Mayor. I don't really have much.
Okay, good.
Considering the way our meeting's gone.
It's gone. All right, thank you.
One more thing, I'm sorry, Mayor. The water quality report from MUA is going out to everybody as we speak, and we're still doing real well. Huh? Okay, good.
Okay, and also, I want to thank Liz for putting the calendar together. I mean, it looks like it's a simple thing to do. It's impossible to get everybody to get their dates and times and numbers and everything on time to get it printed, so it's a lot of work to do that. Also want to thank the whole Flood Advisory Board for coming out and doing a great presentation, which we talked about before. But I mean, as I said in the presentation, probably FEMA doesn't do as well a presentation as they did here. So if I was to go to a FEMA, we've all been with FEMA, and it's, walking backwards in a room most of the time. So we were way ahead of the game there. Councilman DeLine.
Thank you, Mayor. First of all, I want to thank the Flood Advisory Board for the presentation on the river assessment. Kind of got to see how sausage is made a little bit they almost make it look too easy in a lot of ways. I mean, the amount of work that the board has done on the rivers beforehand And then this year, they got, really assistance from technology that really enhanced their understanding of the area, but still, it still requires a lot of deep dives into reviewing all those photographs that were taken every 2 seconds, making sure that their information was accurate, really understanding and taking that and prioritizing. So it's, to go from, I think 40 hours to 8 hours, I think probably undersold it a little bit, the amount of effort that's required to do all that. That might have just been on the actual, checking the rivers. Yeah, so there's a lot more work that goes on behind the scenes. So, and that's valuable information for us to adjust things. We did have that grant meeting, so it was good to talk to our consultant from Millennium Strategies about some opportunities. And it looks like there, could be some avenues that we need to explore. So it's good to have those conversations with Millennium as a result of that. I just wanted to reiterate what Lauren Bennett had said earlier. On National Trails Day at the beginning of June, we had a new kiosk installed at Hirschfield Park for the new trail there. It's since been updated, not only with the map, but the scheduled maintenance days for the Trails Maintenance Committee. We take care of a lot of the trails on the south end of town, and now we have Hirschfield Park as well. And also the Family Hike Series. And again, the Family Hike Series was something that was started a couple of years ago. It's an opportunity for Pompton families to get together, get outside a little bit, get away from the craziness of running our kids from soccer practice or karate or everything else, and just kind of reconnect and meet each other and things like that. So we do have one family hike coming up, actually July 22nd at the Leonard J. Buck Park in Far Hills, which is about a 40-minute drive. I hear it's amazing. I haven't been there, but I look forward to it on July 22nd, which I think is a Sunday, actually. Prior to that, when I say scheduled trail maintenance days, because there's actually going to be an impromptu weed whacker day this Saturday on June 30th.
Sounds like fun.
Maybe Terry will bring the tea out. But, with the trails and the rain that we've had and the trails being as wet as they are, it's really spurred some growth of grass along some of our wetter trails. Usually we get to later July and August where we're trying to, cut down the grass a little bit on the trails, but it looks like it's hitting us early this year. So that's this Saturday, I think at 10 a.m. 9 a.m. before it gets really hot. And we're going to be meeting at Joe Grove Field. So, bring a weed whacker if you want to help out, manual or powered. And then July 15th is actually a scheduled trail maintenance day. And again, that's a Sunday, meeting at 9 a.m. At Joe Grove Field as well. So again, the amount of work that it takes not only to have our trails, but to maintain them. Fortunately, we do have a good amount of volunteers, but, what they say about many hands make quick work. So if you're interested in helping out, please show up to any of those dates. And again, if you forgot everything I just said, you can go down to Hirschfield Park and check out the trail kiosk. It's also on our website under Trails Maintenance Committee under open space. The last thing I wanted to bring up was about the garage sale, the townwide garage sale on July 14th. We've been doing this for a number of years, and this year decided to try something a little bit different. Actually, I'm going to ask you to go someplace else. So, typically we have the townwide garage sale, and this year an online map has been created that's available, one, for anybody to take a look at. So if you're on our main webpage, there's a news article at the bottom of the page called Pompton Lakes Townwide Garage Sale. You go to this, there's actually a link to a Google map that this now shows, as long as people put them in, and we've been trying to get the information out there. But anybody who's planning on having a garage sale can actually put the location of their garage sale directly onto the map, and then anyone can go onto the map and see where the garage sales are being held. So, hopefully be a little helpful for people entering Pompton Lakes, and maybe a little helpful for the people that are putting on the garage sales. And it's really easy to do. All you have to do is click where it says add marker, drag it over to the spot on the map that you want it, gives you a point, change the information to your address. If you want to add, it allows you to add photos of what you're selling, add information about, when you're going to be, be out there, what else you're selling if you don't want to do photos, things like that. So trying something a little bit different just to get the information out there for this year's townwide garage sale. And that concludes my report, Mayor.
Yeah, that's a great thing for people out of town to take a look at and see if maybe they can follow the map. With that, let's just remind all our residents that who are watching this before the garage sale, it's a dangerous time to be driving on that garage sale day. Please keep your speeds down. Please keep your eyes open. I'm just so nervous about the garage sale all the time because there's just people running in every direction across every street. All it takes is one kid on the phone or one adult looking in their pocketbook or something, and something can happen. So please pass that message around when we have a garage sale to keep your speeds down. The other thing I'd like to bring up before the next report is, in the calendars that everybody will be receiving tomorrow is a blue pamphlet. I know a lot of the people who've been in town a long time probably just go skip through it because they think they know everything there is to know about flooding in town. There's always something new you're going to learn in this pamphlet about flooding and what happens in town when we flood and what you need to do. Especially for newer residents in town, this is something you definitely want to read and go over a couple times so you understand the process of what goes on during a flood. If you don't understand and you haven't been through a flood, it's a very hard thing to explain to someone without them seeing it for themselves. So this will give you a lot of good information on how you turn off your gas and electric and who you call and all those kinds of information. So please, take your time and read it. We put a lot of time and energy to put that out there. Councilman Giacometto.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to start by, again, echoing everybody else. Lauren Bennett, the Flood Advisory Committee, a wonderful presentation. Kudos. It gets better every year, so again, thank you. Great job. The other thing I had, I brought up previously when I was with the Shade Tree Commission. You have Guy Allegri. He is an Eagle Scout that's doing a project over by the Pompton Lake Elks, by the Joe Louis Memorial. And discussions we had before, I just wanted to make sure everybody's on the same page, that the borough is going to be donating 4 trees to him for that planting that project. He's got a lot of donations for brickwork and everything else. But the only thing I wanted, I don't know if I explained myself at that time, separate from their budget, meaning the Shade Tree budget. I wanted it separate. I know I was talking to Kevin, we tried to find the money.
I was under the impression they were coming from Shade Tree.
Well, the problem was Shade Tree had so many things yet on their plate to do last year and then this year, that to take $1,000 from them, that can be several trees they can trim and
That changes the book. So he's asking for $1,000 from the town?
Well, up to, wherever the trees are. They're gonna be smaller trees, but I just wanted everybody to understand that was the thing, because they didn't want to interfere with their budget. They were given the budget, wanted it separate from the budget. That was the whole thing, and this was coming from the mayor and council, that we would donate the trees for the, monument over there. I just wanted to get everybody's feedback, whether we have to,
The only problem I have with it, I have no problem with the project, I think it's a great project, but once we open the door to lending money to one Boy Scout for an Eagle project, we will have to be lending money to every Eagle project. We can't just pick one person to lend money to. So we have to keep that in mind. I mean, $1,000 is a lot. I mean, we've had Eagle projects that were $100, and we talked about that number.
Well, it's up to, it depends the size of the tree, so we can go with a little smaller trees, and we can make it less.
I would say, this is gonna be my suggestion to the council, you guys can decide whatever you want. I think he needs to do, most Eagle Scouts do some major fundraising for the tree, for most of the project.
Yeah.
Let's see what he can get, and then we look at giving him what's left. I think we just go out and say, here's whatever it's gonna be. We're setting a precedent that might be hard to follow. And you are an Eagle Scout. I am an Eagle Scout, so.
Yeah. Well, like I said, he raised the money for the benches, for the bricks that people can put
I
their hands on.
understand, but there's, the Girl Scouts have what they call the Gold Award, which is
Yeah.
basically the Eagle Scout. They do projects. I mean, once we say yes to that, we have to think about that a little bit.
I think if you go back, I think the mayor brings up a good point. I think if you go back into our minutes from a year or two ago, there was a scout that needed lumber, but it was we were talking about a fraction to complete part of their project. We're talking about a fraction of the cost.
Yeah.
So, I'll hear from more council. I mean, it's not my decision, it's you guys, so you guys decide what you want to do.
I guess I'm confused.
Yes.
If these are the planting of trees, and he's raising money for different things.
He was looking for donations.
No, I
Yeah.
understand. I don't understand why the trees aren't coming from the shade tree fund.
Because they have to pay for them.
Who has to pay?
Shade Tree pays for them.
It's charged to the State Street budget.
We don't have, they don't get three trees.
No, I understand that, but why doesn't it get charged to the shade tree budget?
Well, because they have a lot of things on their plate that they have to do. That $1,000 would be for something else.
But, I mean, it's all prioritizing. Why isn't this?
That's the problem, that this was not considered as part of it. But when the budget was formulated,
Yeah.
this donation was not considered part of it. That's the post-budget type of thing. So if you do that, the Shade Tree budget doesn't really include $1,000 donation for trees through a Eagle Scout project.
I'm gonna go out of line just for a second, and usually I don't do this, but I'm gonna ask Mr. Hinton to step forward, please. Wow, I can't believe I'm asking this, but to talk more.
Yeah, I know, Mayor, you know, but sometimes, listen, we have to criticize each other, and sometimes we have to praise each other.
So I'm gonna ask you
Sometimes we
this.
have to work together. But the problem for Mrs. Reichert is, this is private property. Shade Tree budget puts trees on borough property.
Okay, so
This is private property, this is Elks, this is that monument, it's not borough property.
So
That's
that makes
Can
sense.
I ask a question for you? Is it possible, do you think through your connections that we can maybe get a tree donated, or you don't think that can happen?
It's possible, like, we could ask, yeah.
Maybe we can get one donated, maybe the Elks could buy one, and then maybe we could buy another one or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, you know, like I said, we have to cut it in half, you know, whatever, it has to be half the project, but, you know, listen, I'm sure he's willing to take anything.
I think that's it. I mean,
Yeah,
that's
but I mean,
excellent.
that was the only problem that Shade Tree had with the situation.
Okay, that makes
This is
complete
not
sense.
borough property.
Just like we saw about 2 hours ago, maybe 3 hours ago.
4 hours ago?
Now, Mrs. Bennett was able to get drone services provided in kind. These are the types of, an Eagle Scout project is the type of thing that perhaps our nursery would be inclined to.
Sure. I'm gonna make this suggestion, you tell me if you guys are good with this.
All right.
I think we put ourselves forward for one tree, to buy one tree. Maybe he could reach out to the Elks to see if they're willing to buy one tree, because it's going on their property.
Right.
And maybe if we could reach out, maybe you could reach
I
out to
could reach
see,
out to Tony Cerbero on
see if they
nursery.
can get one.
Yeah, see if we can get one.
And then, maybe he'll have to find funds for one tree if it's 4 trees or something like that. Is that fair enough, or if you want to change it? I don't.
That's fair, and I did reach out to Randy, because Randy's gonna be working with him to help with the planning, so thank you, Randy,
So-
yeah.
And maybe they'll even work with him on the price of the ones he's buying.
And if they can't donate a tree, just let us know, and then we'll have to renegotiate something.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure, all right, so this way, all right.
I think that's a fair compromise.
Yeah.
If everybody's good with that, everybody's good with that?
Well, I just want everybody to know, this way we know what's going on,
Right.
and way, you know.
And the Elks should throw in a tree, I mean, it's on their property, so they should
Yeah.
throw one tree in. And I don't know how, wait, do you know how much a tree like that costs? How much is a tree?
Well, it depends on the caliber of the tree, diameter of the tree you want. You know, I mean, like, he can put in anything from width to a 3-inch diameter.
Yeah, he can go a little smaller, you know, like I said, it just meant
1.5 inches.
that, right, it'll grow eventually, but it's meant to cover the area where, you know, people can.
All right, so get back to him and tell him to get some prices, get some ideas, and see what we can do.
Are you willing to, are you willing to work
Yeah.
with him and guide him a little bit?
Yes, that was in the email
Yeah.
that, I sent.
Yeah.
You have something on?
Yeah,
Well,
no,
we talked to Kevin about the budget being available for something like that.
Well, the problem is, I don't want to set a precedent that we're
Right.
paying $1,000
Well, that's what
out.
I'm saying, like, regardless of whether it's $1,000 or $250.
Well, we have given money previous,
We've set aside money for.
not set aside,
Let's set aside.
$100 for Eagle Project,
But
or
we could,
$50
we
for
could
Brick.
support something.
Yeah.
Can we do like $100? Are we good for that?
We're gonna go with it.
Give it there.
yeah,
I mean, no, but honestly, you know, anytime that, you know, one of the council people talks about doing something, our first conversation should still be with Kevin.
Yes.
And the mayor about doing this stuff, and making sure that that's what's going on, because everybody's got $100 for this, $100 for that, and $100 for
Yeah.
that. Eventually, you know, there's gonna be something that, you know, it's like, oh, well, you gave them this.
Well, and that's why I had the concern with $1,000 is pretty pricey.
yeah.
Have them approach Rotary.
Who?
Rotary.
Okay,
And the police department. Throw them in the mix.
okay. No problem, like I said, it's not a fair compromise. Like I
right,
said, I know it's on the Elks property, but like I said, this is for, Joe Lewis trained here, he got us our first ambulances, you know, we put a lot of Pompton Lakes on the map. It's not just for me to
No, I
enjoy, not
get
for
it.
you, it's for everybody to
I
enjoy.
understand,
You know, so it's
look,
just-
Eagle projects are great
You know,
help
yeah.
to to
So-
our town or in our state.
But I think it's fair compromise, I'll let him know,
All right.
and we'll move forward. I just want everybody to be on the same page, this way we get everybody's input, all right, and that's what I'll do.
Good.
All right? The last thing I had was I attended the CAG meeting, as we were stating before, not to rehash some other things, but the letter that Lisa wrote, and Jefferson was talking about, I did sign the letter. Of course, I minus the Superfund site. I do not agree with that. Never have, never will. But I do agree with the other things. Listen, if the governor says, I want to meet with you, he promises you, hey, listen, a promise is a promise. You're going to meet with him, meet with him. I have no problem with that.
How do we know that was said?
It was said on the radio station, yeah.
Well, I didn't hear that on the radio station.
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
So he said, listen, I have no problem. Well, listen, you told me to meet with him. Like I said, that's what he said, that's what he said. Whether he didn't mean it or not, whatever, that's up to him. As far as the other thing, like I said, yourself, Mayor, and myself, we were at the meeting on September 16th, September 26th, 2017, over here at the Carnival Center. I know exactly what happened. I know what I said. They asked for my comments back, and I gave it to them what my comments were. That was the evening. Dave Epps, if everybody remembers, got up and gave his presentation. He walked out the goddamn door. Never to be seen. Where is he? What's the guy here for DuPont? And he leaves. And then I look at this as myself being in my own home, and the own home meaning, listen, if they're going to do work in that, it's a pilot study, insure the homes, because what happens if something does happen? They can say, well, there's a guarantee. There's no guarantees in life. What if something does happen? Imagine you and your family in there, this floods now it's contaminated. Where do you go? What do you do? You think, I'm not going to do nothing. What am I going to do? I go, listen, go to the insurance company, do what you got to do. I mean, that's ridiculous, really. You got to have safeguards in place that if this is contaminated water coming in there, what are you going to do? What's the plan? What's the OEM plan going forward if they're going to do this? I have no problem if they want to try to do it or try to do something, but it doesn't seem like it's maybe the best solution. And like I said, they can try different things. Maybe this is not the best thing. Maybe they should go back to the drawing table, come up with something better. Maybe they have some more technology that they can try. Like the mayor said, we weren't too happy about it. It doesn't seem like the best thing. And like I said, what they say here, I go to many meetings. The mayor's been more than 3 meetings. He's been to dozens of meetings. He's been to me personally, listen, we've been to a lot. And like I said to him when I talked to him there, listen, we do support you. I do live here. Don't agree with everything. We don't have to agree on everything. But I do agree on, listen, I spoke up at that meeting. I'm speaking up now. I'm against it. Spoken many articles. I don't know what you're talking about. I'm not, speaking against DuPont. I'm not, believe me, I'm no fan of DuPont. But listen, they're here, they're cleaning it up. It is what it is. I'm not happy with the cleanup. It's taken a long time. I know the one woman says that lives on dorm. Listen, her kids are going to still be dealing with this. I'm going to tell you that right now. I was a kid dealing with this. We're still dealing with it. I can tell you one thing. It's going to take a hell of a long more time. Her kids are going to be dealing with it. Can't guarantee it, but I can tell you that's what you're going to shoot for. It's going to take a long time. Unfortunately, it is what it is. And then the other thing, the comparison. Listen, I know one man works very hard. The comparison, you're comparing apples to oranges. And what I mean by that, when I was on council back in '90 after Councilwoman, Millie was on council, I became council after that. And you were dealing with apples and oranges. When I spoke with the gentleman over here, his name was Lee Woods. Very good. DuPont wanted to try to do a lot of different things. They wanted to work the community, they wanted to do things. He left, unfortunately, and we had Ralph Slow come in. And we used to work with Ralph Slow at the time. But the philosophy changed at DuPont, all right? The philosophy changed. We're done dealing with it. We cleaned it up. We're going in a different direction. The plant's no longer here. Nobody's here to represent them. They don't send people here. They do the cleanup. They do with the EPA, the DEP. It's different. They don't have a community here. They're not here. They're not part of it. It's a totally different world. It's 2 different things. It was lead and mercury versus, TCE and PCE, paper intrusions. 2 different things. 2 different worlds. So to compare the 2, a lot different. We had the things there. I said it back then. I have articles, everything back then that were against it, it's dragging on, all this other stuff. Back when my kids were little. And we're still dealing with now and dealing with more. And we'll probably still will be. But, I get to say that, because I take offense. They're not here, but I want them to know. I told them at the meeting, I take offense. I go to your meeting, you yell at me. You don't do nothing to do this. I do a lot. I do everything I can. Stopping short of, if they don't do it, what am I supposed to do? And I remind them, we're just the council and mayor. You have county representatives, you have legislative representatives, you have federal representatives. Where are they? Where are they? I don't see our governor, I don't see our U.S. senators, I don't see our congressmen, I don't see them coming to the CAG meetings. I see Frank Jacquet there, Mayor Mike Serra, and some of the other council people. I don't see them. Where are them? Should be knocking on their door. They're your representative too, as long as I am too. They're my representative. I yell at them, I tell them, listen, They don't do it, what am I supposed to do? I try to hold their feet to the fire, talk to them, meet with Pat Seppi, meet with Perry Katz on a daily basis, every other week, try to meet with them here. Tell them, listen, how about we try this, how about we try that, what's going on here, what's going on there? Listen, this is what they tell you, what are you supposed to do? You have to take their advice. This is a government agency. This government agency is created to protect the people. It wasn't something that Frank Giaconetti created, this is what they created before my time. They're here for us, to protect, to have the middleman. So this is what is created, whether they change it or not. And to say, that's what made it funny, that they wanted the DEP to take over, and these people haven't even been here. Not to say the EPA is any better, but at least they're here every week. You can talk to them, whether you don't like the answer or not, at least they're here. Where's the DEP? Well, it was September 26th, we still haven't heard an answer. Right, Mayor? So, I mean, this is what we're dealing with. But anyway, thank you, that's all I got.
Well, I agree with your comments, and look, I understand the residents are frustrated. It's been a long time. I would be frustrated myself, but we're only a limited power here, and I take offense to the fact everyone's available to their opinion, but to say you don't trust the EPA and DEP, just blindly say that's not taking facts into account. Maybe they're wrong sometimes, but they got to be right sometimes too. I mean, at the end of the day, we don't know what's going to end up there, but we have a polluter at this point, and I will call him a polluter, that is responsible to try to take care of what's going on here. Many other sites, they just walk away and say, take me to court. It's going slow, I understand that. The frustration has built for many years, but I think what Councilman Giaconetti said is very true. There's two different things here. There's lead and mercury, and there's the vapor intrusion. I know they're both from the same source, but there's two different strategies involved with cleaning those up. So it's a lot of work and a lot of dedication. On a separate note, I should also bring up the FBLA. It's at college who did their presentation here to us a couple months ago. They won the state tournament. They took first. They're right now at nationals with he said he thinks it's between 6,000 and 10,000 other groups fighting for a spot in the nationals with the presentation they did on redevelopment. So we'll see how they do, but they're excited at their chances. They took first in the state, and he said there was about 3,000 people at that. So it was interesting. Yeah. Councilman Bennett.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to start off by thanking all our volunteers once again. Lauren Venn was up here, 6:30, what time is it? 6:30? 7 o'clock, sorry. With her presentation, very informative, and like I said before, they put a lot of work in. Probably one of the hardest working boards I'm aware of, next to Shade Tree. Anyway, but about Shade Tree, I attended, JCPL gave a tour. I'm just going to touch on it real quick. And I was there with a councilman from near Lambertville, and basically they talked about how they prioritize which areas get put back online first, if you're near municipal building, certain hospitals, so on and so forth. Also basically biggest bang for the buck. If you live in a densely populated area, they're going to take care of that area before you take care of an area where there's one or two houses. But what the councilman from near Lambertville said, that they didn't have a shade tree commission, and they're all woods down there too. So we're very lucky to have folks that are very dedicated to that work. And with that, welcome Danielle Denti, who will be sworn, I believe, at the next shade tree meeting, to the Shade Tree Commission. Lastly, I'll touch on a couple people mentioned roadkill. The DPW does not pick up roadkill due to disease and whatnot. There's procedures involved. So the procedure is to notify the police non-emergency number at 973-835-0069 to report that. They will dispatch the proper folks to take care of any roadkill. And that's my report. Thank you.
And there's been a lot of kind of ghostly comments on Facebook that people are stealing the deer heads and cutting them off and all kinds of craziness. I don't know how true that is, but I will tell you there is a decapitated deer on Hamburg Turnpike. That's all I can tell you. So someone took the head, I don't know.
I was there when that deer went down.
Did he lose his head when he got
No,
it?
he did.
Okay. Councilman Big.
Thank you. Thank you, Lauren, for your presentation and the subcommittee and the work that they do. They do a real fine job. Thank you. I received the Pompton Lakes Riverdale First Aid Squad report for the month of May 2018 from Chief Sean Filippi. There were 95 calls for the service for the month, 42 in Pompton Lakes, 26 in Riverdale, 10 duty calls in Wanacue. There were 64 medical emergency calls, 14 trauma calls, 1 CPR call, 4 motor vehicle accident calls, and 4 fire calls. I attended the Day of Prevention Annual Awards Appreciation Breakfast hosted by the United for Prevention in Passaic County, held at William Patterson University on June 14th. Also attending was Liz Brenda, Lieutenant Kushan, and Sergeant Williams. Each municipal coalition had an opportunity to display and explain their coalition's activities. The keynote speaker was Diane Litterer. She's the CEO and Executive Director of the New Jersey Prevention Network. She spoke about the public health impact of marijuana legalization.
And isn't that the mother of the guy who got us started in the alliance?
Probably.
Michael Reeder, yes, it's his mother.
The Pompton Lakes Police Department received one of the Partner in Prevention Awards for its prescription drop-off program. I attended the Elks Club Flag Day ceremony on June 14th. With the help of the local Boy Scouts, they explained the history of our flag and displayed the various flags that represent the United States throughout our history. It's a very interesting program, and they do give out a nice brochure explaining the history of the flag, and I'd really like to see them do this as a more public program in the future. I think it would be very nice. I also attended the Pompton Lakes Kids' first concert of the year on the 14th at the library. Part of the street was the band that was featured, and Columbia Bank did the sponsorship on the concert. It was a good turnout. There were about 200 people.
Yeah, good.
And we've been getting good turnouts in the past. And that's my report.
Yeah, it's always a nice event to just relax on a nice summer day and listen to a good band. I've been to this flag ceremony I had to miss, but I've been to the last couple. They do a great program, and maybe we should talk to them about getting it on film at least, to put it out on
Yeah,
television.
it would be something where it's more public.
Yeah, that'd be great. Okay, professional reports.
As you may have heard, this morning the Supreme Court of the United States issued a decision that prohibits public unions from requiring the payment of what are called agency fees. I don't think at the moment we have any employees who are in that category. That is, an employee who is not a non-public, who is a non-union member paying agency fees. However, if I understand Kevin correctly, there were numerous inquiries today concerning the status of public employment and whether or not individuals have to remain union members. That is an open question, which is why I ask you to, let's be just a bit patient before we take any action. But I will tell you that the union's attorney, the BEA's attorney, immediately contacted me and asked that in the event we had any non-union members from whom we were collecting agency fees, that we immediately desist from collecting those fees. But again, I don't think we have anybody who qualifies yet. The question that is open is whether or not individuals can simply leave the union by requesting it of the borough. I think it may be a little bit more complicated than that. I think they may have to abide by not only what the borough wants of them, but also what may be in their union bylaws, because they would have agreed to those. So for the moment, at least until the end of the week, I'm going to recommend that we take no action. And by Friday, the attorney for the union has indicated that he will provide me a written position on where the BEA stands.
So if I'm correct, a union provides them benefits in some sort of way.
Well, the union negotiates for them.
So if they step out of that, then how do they negotiate with us?
The union still has to represent them.
They still have to represent them?
Yes, even without the payment of agency fees.
Okay, wow. Yep. Okay. Anything else?
No, that's fine.
Administrator's report.
Just a couple of things, Mayor. We received information from the NJDP requiring training by various boards for stormwater training. Just today, they reached out and said that they I originally talked about mayor and council taking that training, and they clarified it by saying, no, it's really for those individuals to review development plans and so forth. So, we'll have to get that information out to those boards to have that training done. In fact, I want to talk to Andy Brewer, who's going to be doing,
He said he would teach you.
training relative to the joint insurance fund. Maybe we kind of tie it all together in one night of training and make life much easier for all.
So the question I have before we move on to the next thing is, the problem is, what happens if one employee does not show up to that? Then what happens at that point?
I don't know.
Right, I mean,
I don't know what the, penalty is.
Right.
If there is a penalty, I think all you can do is your best to make sure everybody who is potentially required to take the training, takes the training. It's somewhat, ambiguous in that respect, but we'll do our best.
this is insurance to just basically, if you take the class, so everybody understands, if you take this class, you now have insurance protection against you if something was that you were to be sued as a person of working for the town. You have extra insurance. If you don't take the class, you don't get the insurance.
No, that's not true. There's two issues. One was the DEP training, other is the mail coverage training.
Right, no.
That too is Andy Bruce will do that, because right now, planning board and zoning board, they're offering new insurance coverages for those people who make any decisions, might be litigation depending on those decisions. That covers now Senate, and it covers the board as a general, it doesn't cover individuals. So, but again, we got the same thing. Who knows if everybody can make the meeting? They're going to require sign-in sheets, and I guess we'll do the best we can to get everybody, properly trained.
Kevin, are they, all our members of the planning and zoning board went to training initially when they were appointed and then periodically.
This is above and beyond that.
But this is not for the training per se, this is for the insurance, and they're not coordinating these efforts at all?
This is, no.
Okay.
No. Maybe eventually it will, but not all towns are in a that provides this coverage.
Right.
That's the issue is it's trying to explain to you what the coverage does for you and how you should make a decision based upon, the coverage that are afforded, that type of thing. So it's not quite the same thing, because even if you have the generalized training, every town gets this coverage, so you could be from, Wanacue, and it's not going to help you if you don't have this coverage. So it's kind of why it's generalized. I'll do it, Andy. I can do work out a program to meet with the redevelopment agency and the boards one time before a meeting and utilize our setup here to have that type of training.
And the obligation is time-based, right? Not substantively based? Are they saying how many hours you need for this?
No, the actually, I think it's less than 40 minutes for the planning, zoning. It's not a long amount of time. It's not time-based. It's the course. You sit through the PowerPoint. You say you were there, you signed the declaration, you were there on the date, and that's what you have to do. Major capital projects. Next week, we're going to be receiving our RFPs for our storm drain and inlet program. Grant Avenue is designed and asked out for the county. We have county road implications, and also the NJDOT, once that's been reviewed, that'll go out to bid, and the Summit Avenue project is almost ready to bid, so we'll probably bid those things out in the next month or so, and we'll have that work done August, September timeframe. We received from Epiphany, is the organization that oversees the metrics of our prevention coalition, making sure we hit all of our particular goals. We received the evaluation from October 2017 to March 2018, and for council review. And I also passed it on to Ashley, our new coalition coordinator, who starts next week.
Who's running the meeting tomorrow? Do you know?
I'm not sure. I know that.
No, who is running the meeting?
Professionally, Ashley will be there. She's also recommended another speaker coming. They're going to have that speaker on the agenda.
For tomorrow?
Tomorrow night.
Okay, so somebody's going to run the meeting, is going to get in there and do it. Okay.
Lastly, I was approached by a representative of National League of Cities. National League of Cities is providing a program now, they call it the Service Line Warranty Program, where homeowners can buy a warranty program through them for the purposes of dealing with issues of sewer line problems, water line problems, and actually in-home plumbing issues. As most people don't realize, is that when the services we provide through the MUA come to your curb, that's where the responsibility stops, and that's where homeowners' problem begins. And sometimes you have a water main break or sewer main break on your own property, you go online, it could be thousands and thousands of dollars. And the paperwork I provided, the warranty program is relatively inexpensive for a homeowner to take, 1, 2, or 3 of those particular warranties. And they actually hire local vendors to provide that warranty service. There's an article that I provided that the city of Newark has done it. It was in Leading Styles magazine. Something to consider. There's no obligation on our part. If we do, we have an agreement with them, and they provide all the work from there on out. And it's up to the residents; they want to take advantage of it. But it's, when you think about it, it's kind of the amount of money you might pay for one water line repair. You're probably paying less than $200 a year for a warranty service. So look at something to think about. But
Yeah, let's look at the
yeah, something to consider.
On that note, I will tell you that someone knocked on my door a couple days ago trying to sell insect, what do you call it, to kill insects, whatever that's called. Exterminator. And I said, do you have an ID? And I asked him for an ID, and then I said, do you have a permit? You are allowed to ask anybody who comes to your door, do they have a permit? He did say, and who are you? And I happened to say, I happen to be the mayor. I'd like to see a permit. And he actually did have a permit that was applied. He applied for a permit and he got the permit. But as a resident, you have the right to ask for an ID and for a permit from someone who knocks on your door trying to sell something. If they don't have the permit, they're not allowed to be knocking on your door trying to sell you something. So if you do get people knocking on your door trying to sell you something, you can call the police and say, look, this guy's walking around the neighborhood trying to sell driveways or roofs or whatever he's trying to sell, and he'll be escorted off the property. So it's worth asking, you never know who's going to knock on your door. So he did have an actual badge hanging from his neck, and he had a permit, so it was interesting.
Mayor, it may be worth reminding the public tonight that they have the ability in Pompton Lakes to sign up on a no solicitation program, which I don't think very many people, if anyone in the borough, has taken advantage of. Two people. So you can see the clerk, you can have your address put on a no solicitation program, and solicitors will pick that list up when they get their license. And if you're on that list, they cannot solicit your house.
I did not know that.
Mayor?
I'm getting on that list. There'll be 3 tomorrow. Any other questions to the administrator? Okay, seeing none, can I have a motion to open up comments? Comments. Councilman Giaconetti, Councilman Bennett. All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Anyone from the public like to address? Please step up.
Hi, Peter Shazad, 314 Woodlawn Avenue. I heard you, in regards to the CAG earlier, I heard you mention a few times that they weren't the official CAG. Apparently, at some point in time, there was an official CAG. What were they, and how are they different?
It's a long, sordid history.
Short version.
But the short version is the EPA and the DEP put a CAG together, and they invited members to be part of that CAG, and a lot of the members you see sitting there were part of that CAG. It erupted into a free-for-all brawl, basically, and it got loud and from all different sides, and the EPA said, we're done with this CAG. We will not come back to this CAG. We tried to put it together again with just the DEP, and the same situation happened. So they said, we will not be part of CAG. Most towns have an actual CAG. This group of residents is been part of the CAG from the very beginning, took it upon themselves to make a CAG and do that, and they keep the CAG meetings going, but it's not an official CAG of the EPA and the DEP.
So you're saying other towns do have a
Yes.
CAG that may be a subcommittee of...
No, it's not even out of a town, it's a subcommittee of the EPA and the DEP.
Of the EPA.
So the EPA would come to those meetings and run the CAG.
Right.
Or the DEP would come to those meetings and run the CAGs.
Is there any hope or chance for a reconciliation to make them more of an official
I
group
have
again?
offered that to that CAG, and I have offered it to the EPA, and they said they would be willing to do it. They right now have no interest in becoming part of that, another CAG. They like their CAG, right there. What I tried to make them understand that it does carry a little more weight, though, when the EPA is involved in your CAG, because they're a representative. They don't come to their CAG meetings. The DEP doesn't come to their CAG meetings. It would be good to have these members come to their CAG meetings.
Right.
So it would be to their benefit to actually try to move back in with these groups again. And then it becomes a subcommittee of the town also, so we have more leeway to have them use the rooms and things like that.
Secondly, in regards to Mayor Sennheiser's book, I've read it, it's very interesting. And in regards to your argument that it is a fictional book, and that is true. But there's an insinuation that I think you're putting upon it in the sense that since it's classified as a work of fiction, that therefore it is untrue. I don't know what percentage of it may be true or may not be true. There are some very alarming insinuations in that book. But from a practical point of view, I mean, I think it's a legitimate argument to say that it was in the best interest of the mayor to write it as a work of fiction, A, because not to be sued for libel, because some of those accusations would be very hard to prove, and it is really more of a first-person account. So at a minimum, the acts of fiction within the book are just changing the names of the people involved.
Well, that's an opinion, but if you were to speak to DEP, the EPA, and the Comores themselves, they would say that's not true.
What's not true?
And I've read the book myself, too. Parts of the book that he states as fact in the book, even though the names are changed,
right,
are incorrect.
Yes, and I have no knowledge to speak to as to what...
So basically what you said in a nutshell is true. It's a fictional story. So a fictional story is a story that is not true. That is what a fictional story is.
And legally you can't take any action.
Right.
That's based off of it because... Of course. I think I don't want to say a matter of empathy, but maybe as a matter of empathy, when stating that fact to some of the CAG members, maybe to just specify that you understand the distinction or the varying levels of fiction that it may or may not be. And so that, I can't give you a percentage of how true or not true this is, but I understand that this is potentially an attempt to tell a first-person narrative as to the time of that history.
And it makes sense, but it also works both ways. It can't be taken as a non-fiction, this is the truth of what happened here. It works both ways.
Sure. As many things do.
As many things do, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public like to address? Jim?
Randy Hinton, 443 Montclair Avenue. Being it's after 10 o'clock, do I get 10 minutes?
No, but if you go to 11 o'clock, I gotta buy pizza for the whole council, so do not talk long.
I just want to thank Flood Advisory. I did my second rain barrel.
No.
And I'm looking forward to the rain tonight to see if both of them fill up. They're tied together, so we'll see how it works out. Also, DMK was down at the south end of town, working along the Morris Canal Greenway walkway.
Yes.
And did a nice job, cleaned up a lot of the trees and brush that was taken down from the storm. And I commend the mayor and council on that. Just a question on resolutions that you passed. I had a question on Resolution 18136, urging the legislator to amend 3 Senate bills. What were those 3 Senate bills?
You have it pulled out?
Our joint insurance fund asked us to do a resolution that they provided relative to workers' compensation issues, relative to firemen, and there was one relative to
a presumptive immediate. It was a burden of proof issue.
Yeah, one had to do with workers' comp relative to when you have an exposure to something, things of that nature. That's what it was about.
It was actually to get some benefits.
We try to properly amend the legislation to support the coverage of workers' comp issues on various issues.
Especially to volunteers.
That was all 3 of them?
Yeah, basically, yes.
Okay, and then Resolution 18139, Breakerhoff Environmental Services, what does that pertain to?
That's a contract for the LSRP on the Roth property. We have, there's some considerations being given to accepting the Roth property, but by the borough, but only if certain funds are provided by the Roth estate, and the LSRP is involved in applying for 2 grants that are substantial grants that would be the primary source of funds for the remaining cleanup of that property.
Okay, so if we do get those grants to clean up the property, then we would accept the property?
If we get the
A lot of
grants,
steps
and
there.
if the Roth estate is willing to contribute some number that the council has yet to decide on, then it's likely that the property will be cleaned up and the borough will become the owner.
So for the residents that don't know, we're talking about the Roth's cleaner that's downtown. It's been empty for many, many years. It had some contamination from being a cleaner. The owners of the property the owner passed away, and then the family kind of walked away from it. We're not going to accept it because it is a dirty property, and obviously we wouldn't want it. But it is also a big eyesore in the middle of downtown that's not open and not being used, and the building's crumbling. So the bid has reached out to us and said, look, we would be willing to take the building down and make it a small pastoral or a park of some sort, but the contamination thing has to be concerned. We as a town wouldn't put it on the taxpayers to pay for that. So this is something our attorney came up with, which is a good suggestion if we can make it work, that they'll throw in some money if they can, the family. We can get these grants, we can clean the property up, take the building down, and do what we need to do with it.
Good, sounds like a good idea. Also, with the Morris Canal Greenway Trail, when is the dedication for that? Is there a date set for that?
We have to get to the point of the project looks functionally complete before we set a date. We've had, with this project started in February, and because of weather and everything else, there's been delays. So, it's one of those things, we'll definitely put an announcement out when we're ready to do the dedication, but right now, we just want to make sure that the project's moving forward properly before we do that.
Yeah, because I saw the footings for the benches and the rest.
Yeah, it's getting close, but...
Yeah, so I was just curious.
Yep.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public like to address?
I have a quick question.
Sure, step up.
Joyce Garner, 58 Mandeville. I just have a question about the no solicitation. Do you register with the clerk?
How you doing?
Mrs. Francis.
Okay, now, once you register, when they go to solicit, they get a list of who's not on that list. Do they get your name, or do they just get an address?
I don't know what the list has, I have to look at it.
Okay, because,
You don't want your name on it.
I don't want my name on it. I don't even like opening the door to ask them. In fact, I've asked them about if they have a permit, or if they, are registered with the police. And of course, they're going to say, yes, am I going to look at it? Do I want to get that close? No, I don't even want to open my door at this point. So I'd like to get on that list, and I think we might, maybe it should be mentioned on the Proudly Pompton or one of those websites that we could
I got
put
you
out
guys
there.
that can do that.
What we could do to get it out there and get everybody to sign up, whoever wants to sign up for it.
Yeah.
I also have a question about the group, the tag. What would it take to get a plume advisory group or something?
From where?
Like from the council, like is the flood advisory and the shade tree committee, they're all part of the town,
Yeah, there's
correct?
set committees that we've worked with over the years. There is no plume.
Okay, but what would it take to get a plume committee?
It
or
really would carry no weight. You really need the EPA and DEP involved in it.
Okay.
Because they're the ones that would come to the meetings and carry the weight of making answers.
Okay.
We couldn't answer anything, really.
Right.
To go to that. And I have suggested numerous times, if the EPA is willing to put the CAG together again and come to every one of those meetings, why wouldn't you want to do that? They would be there to answer your questions.
Right,
Instead of
I
asking
agree.
me and Councilman Giacaletta, let's ask them. Now, the DEP, they're a tough bunch. They're hard to get sometimes. But let's at least get back to where we were. Now, I was part of the original CAG, and that was when things were at the hill. And you were part of that also. And it got a little crazy. I'm not going to lie. It did get a little crazy. They would just have to, everyone would need to control themselves and act like an adult and bring their points across, and the EPA would monitor it. And that's how a CAG is supposed to be. Ringwood has that. Most places have that. We had it, and they pulled away from it because of what we did here.
Well, they pulled away from it also prior to that, too. The health department was there.
Well, the health department,
They
right.
pulled away, the health department never showed up.
Right.
It was a snowballing effect. So
Well, we should try it again. I have no problem.
I agree. Okay, thank you.
And just a side note, the reason I brought up the whole permit thing is because my daughter answered the door and said, I'm not opening the door, somebody I don't know there.
Well,
So they made me go outside and talk to the guy. That's how it all started.
Right.
So I agree with you. I mean, if there's no one who wants to answer the door.
No, and I don't want my name on a list either, saying, you don't know who's going to get these lists.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else from the public like to address? Seeing no one, can I have a motion to close the public session? Councilman Devine, Council President Riker. All in favor? Aye. Against? Privilege of the floor. Anybody got privilege of the floor?
I have two things on the bills before, Mayor.
Knock yourself out.
The first one is, there was a lot of emotion in this chamber today, and it was the first time that I witnessed it in the year and a half that I've been up here. There's a lot of passion directed towards mayor and council, and all along the entire process, we were invoking the Department of Environmental Protection, which is the New Jersey state agency, and the EPA, which is a federal agency. If in fact the DEP is responsible for and has jurisdiction over correcting what Chemours has done, and make sure that we're left with a clean lake and with clean groundwater.
Well, it's backwards. EPA does the groundwater, DEP does the property.
Well, my point here is, those groups work at the behest of one person. Obviously, the EPA works at the behest of the President of the United States, and the DEP works at the behest of the governor. So if either of those bureaucracies are in malfeasance for their job, those are the only people that we can go to. So I would tell all those people who are either feel contempt from the DEP and the EPA for what they give us, talk to their boss. The boss is the governor, not Mayor Mike, and definitely not any one of us. So, we have no problem listening to what everybody has to say about what's happening in Pompton Lakes, because it hurts, and we're here. But the truth is, there's nobody up here that has the power to answer many of those questions. Those questions are state bureaucracies run by the governor and the president. So, we're with you, we live here too. But if a state bureaucrat that works for the Department of Environmental Protection is not doing their job, not answering your calls, not doing what they're supposed to do, it's the governor or the president. And we do our best.
Please, there's no comments from the audience. There's no comment. There's no comment.
Well, I just wanted to
It's
tell
public
you,
session. You can't do it now.
people have come
I'm going to have you removed.
and been
Please,
interrupted.
and you can't talk from the audience. You can't.
Is
Public
it
session,
over?
the public session is your chance to talk.
No.
You can't talk from the audience. It's not fair to anybody else for you to yell out. It's just not. So,
I'll leave you with that statement.
you just can't talk. I'll talk to you after meeting easily.
And
but you
my
can't.
second statement is a very personal one. I have 3 children, and the home that we've lived in for the past 15 years is restrictively small for my family. We've been shopping for a home now for probably about 8 months. About a month ago, we thought we had one. We put our house on the market. Don't let anyone tell you that house values in this town are going down, because in 5 days, I got an offer 10% over my asking in the village. I haven't been able to locate any place in town for my family and me to live. So it's with a heavy heart that I say that July 6th, I will be leaving the council. In my year and a half, as many of you know in the room, I have a very diverse political background. And I can say without any doubt whatsoever that all the members of this council are the most dedicated and ethical people I've ever worked with. And many of you know who I am and where I've been. These people deserve your support without any question. There's no funny business. So I thank the residents of Pompton Lakes. I thank you, Mayor. I thank all the council members. It's been an honor to be here with you guys. And it hurts me a lot to say that I have to leave. But after July 6th, we'll have to figure out who's going to sit here. So I thank everybody for your support and your time, and God bless Pompton Lakes.
So, first of all, just first of all, unfortunately, what he said is correct in that he sold his house so quickly. He has to move out of town to live with relatives until he finds a house. That house may be in Pompton Lakes, but the way the rules read, and we follow the rules here, you cannot be on a councilman if you do not live in town, even for a day. So unfortunately, that's one of the reasons he needs to step down. You know, we did not want this to happen. We actually had my attorney research it to see If he's willing to buy a house in town, can he stay? And it doesn't work. So it's the unfortunate business of the part of it. So we all thank Chris for the time he's put in. He will be coming to the next council meeting. We'll face some more goodbyes there, and we'll take care of
My
it there.
kids are still in school, we'll be in town every day.
Right, he's not going anywhere, his kids are staying in school, so we'll be seeing him around, I'm sure. So I thank him for that. Any other privilege of the floor?
I want to thank you for your service and congratulate you on such a quick staff.
Yes, thank you for having me.
That's a nice thing.
Terry. It's been a while.
Okay.
Honor to serve on your council. Chris, I just, again, it's been my privilege to serve on the council with you. I've gotten, being on the council is always a learning curve, but it's always interesting to see so much growth, and you've really grown into the position, and, hopefully things work out and you can, end up coming back and being a Pompton Lakes resident. But I want to thank you for everything you've done for the town.
Okay, anybody else?
Keep it
Good.
short. Thank you, Chris.
Okay.
Good luck.
Just, I wish you all the best, Chris, and, you're a good running with me.
Thank you.
A motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Councilman, I'll give it to Councilman Barranca.